Hey everybody, here we are again with another horror hangout. I'm looking forward to this one because this one I'm joined by Mr. Leatherface himself, Scotty Parkin from the Sawyer Massacre.
Hi, guys.
We're going to be watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the little film that could, the one that started it all. And today is also kind of special because I want to raise at least $500 for the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And I've got a special prize. I don't know if I shared that with you yet, Scotty, but I was able to get a hold of one of Ed Neal's autographed photos. And whoever is the top donator for this live stream is going to win that. So if you are a horror collector, it would behoove you to be the top donator and win that unique, awesome autographed Ed Neal photo because there ain't a whole lot of them floating around. He has an eBay and it's like random movie memorabilia he'll sell, but very little of it is his actual own stuff that he's autographed. I think he's got a lobby card that Gunnar Hansen signed, and it's like $3,200. I was like, I can't afford that, so I can't offer that as a prize because if I pay for $3,200, I'm probably going to keep it. How's life in Canada, buddy?
Good. Finally got back to work. Some of you may or may not know, I unfortunately lost my job because of COVID. But I got back working at a local casino here, and it's been going really well. And other than it being abnormally cold for where we are, it's been great. Yeah. So how are you doing, John?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can't complain. Still turning wrenches and changing tires and oil and fixing people's wrecked cars and doing
Actually,
podcast and was able to interview the guys from Slasher 15 Productions today. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're like a little indie
no.
horror.
Oh, cool.
Um, they do a lot of work with Felissa Rose, who played Angela in Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I actually
So,
just discovered a thing. I think it's in the second sequel. There's a
mhm.
Freddy and Jason versus Leatherface scene in that. I'm like, why didn't I know that this was a thing? So, so
Hey, Luke the other day shared a thing with me that was a one man Godzilla film.
really,
This kid, well, he's not a kid now. Of course,
yeah,
he's probably an old man now.
yeah,
But in 1991, he was a film school student
yep.
in Japan. He acted out um, the Ultra. I think it was the Ultraman character,
Well,
Godzilla, the Reporters, and Ghidorah. He acted out all those characters, and all he had was some cardboard fins on his back, and he it was silly, dude, because at first I'm dying laughing at it, but then after a while I was like, I appreciate what he's doing here. This is
yeah.
like theater acting. I mean,
Mhm.
he's a one man show because,
Mhm.
but when he comes up over that hill and he goes "Vroom," like that, and I'm like, I lost it. But other than that, he done fantastic. I'll have to send that to you, dude. I
Okay,
know
yeah,
you
I
would
would like to see
enjoy
that. Yeah,
it.
no, like the limitations of the suit is basically like he couldn't like he could bend his elbow, so it was like kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
right on.
Hey, Michelle, I'm sorry I was ignoring you all in the chat. What's up, Johnny? Woo. Oh, well, I know Michelle's been doing her Christmas decorating. I don't know what Johnny joined us last night, and Michelle did. Me and Luke watched Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage.
I've been wanting to see that. Yeah, because like he's like he's a mute hobo in that, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw the ads for that. I'm like, yes.
Well, no, he's actually a drifter, and he just
Yeah,
gets trapped in this town. And not to give away too much of the plot, but they put him in this restaurant and tell
yep,
him to clean it up. And then, of course, like Five Nights at Freddy's, all the
yep, yeah.
animatronics try to attack him. He has no spoken dialogue in the whole movie.
Wow.
None. Zero.
I I kind of have a really big love for oh god big love for him. I forget his name. like his performances in Face Off and like all the 90 movies that he did, is like he's so much fun to watch because he's so over the top. Even in Ghost Rider, like he was able to overact through CG. So like I'm like Nicolas Cage, you're kind of magical. About 5 years ago, here in the Okanagan, about an hour south of where I live, they were filming something. It wasn't Mindy or Mandy. It was one that recently, well, it came out about 4 years ago, but it's actually got a mini premiere here in town because we were the closest theater. So yeah, so it's kind of fun. I had auditioned to be an extra in that one.
Was it
But
Pig?
that might have been it. I'm actually I really can't remember now, but I auditioned to be an extra in that one. But the casting director took one look at me and says, "You are a foot and a half taller than everyone else. I'm sorry." So I'm like, "Okay, I get it." So because I'm pushing 6'6", 6'7", right? So, and they're like, "You would stand out way too much," and that's not the goal when you do background work, right? Like you have to blend in.
I've been
So,
like, well, I can get on my knees. I mean, if you need
yeah,
me
no
to.
doubt, eh? Well, yeah, it was just a couple of things, and there was a couple other projects, unfortunately, around here that I either couldn't get to, or just time management and whatnot. The place where I live is a place called Penticton. So to give you your viewers an idea, I'm about 4.5 hours east of Vancouver and about an hour up from the British Columbia Washington border. A place called the Okanagan Valley. Actually, if there's any Stargate like SG1 fans out there, if you've ever heard the planet called Kelowna, yeah, there you go. Like the planet Kelowna.
Mm-hmm.
That's Kelowna is actually a city that's where Steve lives, and it's about an hour north of me. So I thought that was actually kind of funny. I'm like, oh, Kelowna. It's spelled with a C in the show, but it's K in real life. So yeah. Also, we have our own lake monster. It's called the Ogopogo. Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I've seen some stuff, but I'm a healthy skeptic. So
Luke is always on the lookout. He wants to see Bigfoot, and he's like, I always get aggravated when these guys take pictures because they're never ready. It's always a really blurry picture,
yep.
which lets me know they're never ready, or it's just some big fat dude that they get to go off in the distance and just make him jerk around real quick so it'll look like.
Well, it's like anyone that's ever lived around like bear country, like you can especially black bears too, right? But that's one cryptid I would love to wish that was either was real or is real. There was a great book that came out last year by Max Brooks, who's Mel Brooks' son. He's the guy that wrote the World War Z novel that they turned into a movie, but they ended up changing it in the actual movie. But he wrote one years ago, but he got the rights back to it. It's called Devolution or De-Evolution. And the story goes, there's this small community, about 6 houses, just outside of Mount Rainier, and it's like this not really utopia, but like everything is like self-sufficient. There's like a road in, but Mount Rainier blows, and the town's cut off by a mudslide lahar. So what happens is they start getting it's basically the small community with about a dozen people trying to fight off Bigfoot. So it's actually a lot of fun. Yeah. Nathan Fillion does a voice in there. It's actually, I think it's Judy Greer who is the narrator, and Kate Mulgrew does the chapter in there. Yeah, she played Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager. Are you giving me? Oh, my wife's giving me food. So,
Michelle says, I'm with Luke. I want to see Bigfoot too.
Yep. Yeah. I'm actually, if everything goes well, I'm heading up to Alaska in May. It's a early 5-year wedding anniversary gift from my parents. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. That was the first time I ever saw a grizzly, and wow, that was big. So
See, that's something I've always wondered. Are these people mistaking Bigfoot for grizzly bears? Because in Canada, grizzly bears get really
yeah,
huge.
where I am, there's not a lot, but there's mainly brown and some black bears, but black bears will stand up. And the brown bears around here, they're pretty timid. Like you can scare them off easily. But yeah, like I think a lot of it is just like misidentification. But it's one of those things where it's like I want it to be real. I really want it to be real. So,
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
Oh, like them wrestlers say, I want it to be real, damn it.
Yeah, that I've seen that one. It's like it's real to me, damn it. Actually, going to wrestling, I love the theatrics of it because
Mm-hmm.
they a lot of these guys have to like they know what they have to say, but they have to improv so much of that, and then the whole theatric thing about uh, getting in there and selling the moves. Like for me, I've learned stage combat, and like I did a show where I weighed right now just shy of 400 pounds because I put the weight on and the bulk on for the movie. But I was doing a play about 2 years ago, and I weighed about, I don't know, about 360, 370 or so. And I had these tiny guys that are supposed to throw me across the stage. And we filmed it one day, and I said, okay, you guys, it looks like I'm just running and falling. Like you have to look like you are throwing me. So no, probably one of the best oversellers. There's a handful of them, but it was Shawn Michaels. He sometimes, if he wasn't happy with the match, he would like oversell this, like basically gravity didn't exist. Yeah, so
Yeah, he was notorious for that. He the probably the greatest example of him overselling had to have been the match in, I think it was '05 against Hulk Hogan. Every time
yes,
Hulk Hogan would hit him, man, he would go
it was like
ass over
3 feet
kneecap.
of air. Yeah.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then he fell out the ring, and then he ran halfway up the ramp and just did a front flip, and then ran back
Yep.
into the ring, and he flipped again.
Yeah.
And you could clearly tell Hogan was getting a
Yep.
little upset over that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was not happy with that match. He did not want to do it. So, yeah. But there's the four. Now I had to do it on a crash pad, but Ric Flair would do a thing where he would kind of get stunned and he would stumble around and then do like a front flop.
Yeah, he woo.
Yeah, I learned how to do that, but if you land wrong, yeah, there is a little bit of matting, there is a little bit of give on the mat, but if you did that like on like a regular floor, you would really hurt yourself. So, but you
So
still have to. Yeah.
Michelle was asking who was your favorite wrestlers.
Oh, always was a big fan of Kane. I haven't kept up with it in the last few years, but I got into it late '90s, early 2000s, and this is when like Hulk Hogan, and it was just after the invasion period, so there was a handful, but always like, even though he lost like every match, but like the Hurricane, was it Sean
Shane
Helms?
Helms.
It's Shane Helms, yeah. The Hardy Boys, because they did the acrobatic, like the really high flying stuff. Um, I love how you look back on the old clips with like with Flair, and you're like, how much cocaine was he on? Seriously. I remember turning to my wife one time. We were watching a show. I said, "How much cocaine do you think he's on?" She looks at me. She says, "All of it." So,
My favorites had to have been, I was always a fan of the bad guys.
mhm.
Of course, the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. That's high
Yes,
on my list.
yeah.
And we just lost Bobby Eaton back in August, which was
Mm.
sad. That was just like out of the blue that happened.
Mhm.
Um, Ravish and Rick Rude. I don't know why, but it was just something about him. He could just piss everyone
Yep.
off
Yeah.
at any time, just like that.
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, my absolute favorite wrestler had to have been Goldust. Like that persona of
What was it?
yeah, because it was so over the top, and the whole thing with like Cody Rhodes splitting off and doing like the AEW now, but like the Rhodes family is a big deal in wrestling, right? So, but the fact that he jumped ship and made this whole new promotion, I'm like, that's ballsy. I love it. But probably, especially the comedy side of it too, because there was the ones uh, when he got electrocuted and he got Tourette's. So that was a funny storyline because I remember actually seeing videos of people that had Tourette's and people that had mental tics or like physical tics, and they said that's probably one of the funniest things they've ever seen. So, so if you don't offend somebody that has a disorder or a disability and they laugh at it, you know you're doing it right. So yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that.
Ricky Steamboat, yeah, right
Yep.
on.
One of my favorite wrestlers ever. And the thing was about Ricky, he never turned heel. He was a
That's right.
baby face from
Yeah.
beginning to end. If I had to go on Canadian wrestlers, I know it's going to sound so cliche, but Bret Hart.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, his whole family and his dad, just like the legacy behind that too. Yeah, so it's just really cool to see.
Andre is one of mine. Love Mick Foley, Undertaker for life.
Right on. No, it's
Yeah,
there's that whole thing is like, is wrestling fake? You're like, it's suspension of disbelief, right? It's like as long as you don't know what the outcome's going to be, you will sit and watch a good show. And the whole kayfabe thing, like, I really enjoyed that. Like how the Undertaker rarely ever. Oh, someone Michelle got to sit on Andre's lap right now. Uh, Undertaker very rarely did public appearances, and but he did. I remember seeing one. It was for a children's hospital thing, and him and Kane went in character, and the kids are just absolutely loving it. So
I
no,
don't know. I've been terrified if I was in the hospital and them two big old meatheads come in there in my room.
mhm.
Yeah, Owen Hart. Owen, if you ever get a chance, watch Dark Side of the Ring about Owen Hart, man. That was really
Yeah,
kind of crappy the way
yeah,
they did him. And it also shed light on why his wife has been so adamant of keeping his name out of
yep.
WWE.
Yeah. They can mention him, but he probably, unless his family or his wife, I should say, gives them permission, he'll never be inducted because she,
She blames them, and I can't
to
blame her, you know.
to put it bluntly, she doesn't want them making money off of his tragedy. But uh, and then there's ones. What was it? It was like Eddie Guerrero. He passed away when he was like 37, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm older than Eddie Guerrero now. So, but I saw that. Been kind of passively watching it, but I Rey Mysterio, his son Dominic is now wrestling, which is pretty cool. So yeah, yeah.
Says Johnny Tardis says yeah, Martha Hart is working with AEW now. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
she
right.
is, eh? She
She
is, yeah.
signed a contract. I guess it's like a legacy contract.
Yep.
So they sell T-shirts and everything through their wrestling
Mm-hmm.
promotion, and all the proceeds go to Owen's foundation.
Good. Very
And
good.
I think they're getting ready to do like a tournament, like a
Yep.
tournament in memory of Owen.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's a singles and they don't do tag because I hate that it always seems like he got pigeonholed as a tag wrestler.
Yes, yeah. The only thing right now is because AEW is still filming when I do catch it, they're still filming within a studio, and I didn't watch it to begin with. Did they always have a smaller ring? Does anyone know? Like because the ring is physically smaller, and I
Yeah,
watched
I
the
think so.
yeah.
I know Jim Cornette on his podcast. Uh, he complains about it because I guess they
Yeah.
use a certain brand of ring, and he
Yeah.
talks about how so many
Yeah.
guys, because I guess there's different ring manufacturers,
Yeah.
and I guess this particular one has hurt a lot of guys over the years.
Well, it's so small, so but like you can't build up the speed, and I caught like a 3-on-3 tag match the other day, and I'm like, this is boring because they can't move, right? But even with like TNA, like how they started with like the 6-sided ring initially,
I like the six-sided
you did,
ring.
eh?
I did
I
with the tag matches, not the singles.
Yes,
I thought maybe if they just used the 6 for the tags, it would have
mhm,
worked better. But I understand that would have been a pain in the butt to try to,
mhm.
set up, set up, tear down in between
Well,
matches.
with the 6 posts, like for the TNA, like they film in one studio, like they have like a touring company, but they film in the one studio all the time, so they don't actually tour the show. But also when they film WWE, like they film it Monday and Tuesday, and they broadcast it Monday and Friday. Because up here, where I live in, just north of me, way back in the day, I had to turn it down because I couldn't get out of work, but I had a chance to do the stadium setup for SmackDown. And it was the infamous cage match with Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, and it was like a title line thing, and apparently I think Brock won the title off of Kurt that night. It wasn't supposed to happen. That's what I heard. So yeah.
Yeah, they had a match like that not too long ago where they had to change the finish in the ring. It was
Mhm.
FTR.
Yeah.
One of the guys got sliced open on one of the turnbuckle, the
Mhm.
hooks that hooked it to the post, and I mean his inner arm just got ripped open. So they had to on the fly change the finish of the match.
Jeez. Well, there was this is when they were leading up to um this is the year that they led up to WrestleMania, and it was the famous one where Brock Lesnar does a forward moonsault and tries to land on an Angle, but he ends up hitting his head, and he actually knocks himself out. And Angle had to make it look like he pinned him, and Brock is just he's completely out. So
I missed the sound the WCW ring made when people bumped on it. Yeah, I do too, but that was because they used a thin sheet of aluminum underneath
hmm
it.
yeah.
Gave
Well,
it
you like the theatrics thing, like even like Shawn Michaels would do it too, where like he would do like a like the smack stomp, where like you until you realize like he's making it more and more. Some rings I found have more give, and it may look good, but yeah. So, but one thing I found with the smaller ring, especially the 6-sided one, any wrestler that would go do like the ropes, um, because the ropes were shorter between the turnbuckles, you didn't have the bounce, right? So bounce back, yeah. Yeah. Shooting star press. It was banned after. Really? That's what it
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah, because Brock almost broke his neck that night.
Because you have to land face for because you basically shove your head in. Okay, wow. I
He
know that.
didn't. That's a big man to be trying to do
Yeah,
one of them Billy Kidman
and
shooting stars.
he wasn't a he was like a mat wrestler. Like he didn't do stuff. And then Angle years before that, he got to the top of the cage and he did a backwards moonsault. And he was even telling the story about that one too. He's like, "What the hell?" And he did it. And you're like, Angle doesn't do rope flips, so
Yeah, Billy, not Billy Kidman. Who am I thinking of? Pat McAfee, who does the sports show on YouTube and the podcast. He's an announcer on SmackDown now, but
mm,
he wrestled in Adam Cole in War Games. Well, Adam Cole and his faction, Undisputed Era, at War Games, and he climbed up to the cage and did a moonsault, a back moonsault or whatever you call
yep.
it. But I was like, wow, this guy's an old football punter, and he's up there doing back moonsaults and
Oh
shit. So
man. Well, it's like one of those things where it's like, especially with like the Olympics and stuff like that, like you can train and train and train, like you can be tied up to do flips and whatnot, but you finally have to go out there and actually do it without any kind of safety gear. Like you see people that do ski jumping, either for distance or doing tricks. Eventually, you just have to do it. right? Like you do over water or whatever. But then eventually you're like, all right, let's do it. I feel confident about it. But it's kind of weird. Like I have occasionally will have like reoccurring dreams where I can either like hover or something like that. But I can never do a flip in my dream. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So
Trying to share some
yeah.
stuff, try to get some more people
All
to
right.
up on here with us.
Right on. Well, I'm gonna quickly throw some stuff out onto Facebook again.
Okay.
Give me
Like
one quick second.
And like I said, if anybody's looking to donate to the Susan G. Komen Foundation, save that 50 times fast. You can find the links to that on my Instagram page at btfiendspodcast_official. You can either find it in the link to it in my bio, and or I have two posts. One post I just shared to my stories to make it easier. Like I said, top donator will get a autographed Ed Neal photo, authentic from the Hitchhiker. So if you are a horror collector, that would be something awesome to have in your collection.
Yeah,
I don't think too many of those guys are left.
You gave me a sneak peek to that, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to see. I'm just gonna throw some people quickly on here. I thought I did, but apparently I did not.
It's either you all claim it or me and Scotty are going to keep it.
Dance off, right? Yeah. All right. So, if you guys have any questions for us, feel free. But I'm really happy for everyone that has joined us, and either now or later. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. And anyone
sorry we turned it into a wrestling podcast there for a minute.
No doubt, hey, yeah.
What it's called? It's called the Horror Hangout. We're just chilling, talking. We're going to watch a movie.
Yeah. It's like we'll switch it up a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry, me and Scotty are wrestling nerds.
Yeah. I know. I just haven't kept up with it, and it was just a lot of fun. Like it was entertaining back in the day, right? So I know.
Yeah,
like you start feeling old when you don't recognize anyone that wrestles now. So
I broke my grandparents' bed. So back in God, I still remember the year. It's sad, isn't it? 1988, when Macho Man won the world title, I was the hugest Macho Man fan. And one particular day, me and my cousin were play wrestling on my grandparents' bed. And so I was 11 at the time. So 11-year-old John decided that he was just going to put on his little underwear. And he was going to climb up on the dresser and he was going to go, oh yeah. And I did the elbow drop on a pillow and I broke every slat under that bed.
Bone saw is ready. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm actually really looking for. Yep. Sorry.
And in the words of Macho Man, my grandfather, who was in a recliner, I can still remember hearing the springs to the little footrest come down and then lock into place. And all of a sudden, all I could hear was Macho Man's voice going, freak out, freak out, freak out. And that's exactly what happened because my grandfather come in there. He freaked out. And while I'm trying to put the bed back together, he's whipping me at the same time. And,
man.
And I'm sitting there going, stop it, old man. I'm trying to put your bed back.
It's like, no, I'm trying to fix it, man. Leave me alone. Jeez. I love how I saw a meme recently. It was how like the new Spider-Man movie, they're basically introducing like the Insidious 6, right? And how spoiler alert, if anyone hasn't seen it, Venom might be one of them, but they haven't actually shown it. But people keep saying, well, it's gonna be Bonesaw because he was like his first nemesis, right? So it's like the one they haven't shown yet.
Bonesaw McGraw. Yeah. What was it he said? He says, you're going nowhere.
You're going nowhere.
I've got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Gosh. That was actually one storyline when Eric Bischoff joined up and he had the 3-minute warning. That was one storyline I got so into, and you realize like there was the what was it? It was like, I think it was like Stephanie and Triple H were getting married on the show, and the Reverend turned out to be Eric Bischoff, and the makeup was kind of convincing, but the acting, you're like, something's up, right? And then he says it doesn't matter if it lasts a year, a lifetime, 3 minutes, like for like a marriage. And I remember sitting at home going, Stephanie, run! And I'm like, oh my god, I got really into this. So, it's like,
Michelle says she is very excited to see you in the Sawyer Massacre.
Well, I'm very excited to bring this character back. Basically, I know that there's the new remake that is kind of rocky right now. I am interested in it, but right now I'm just trying to stay to the original. Like people say, "Oh, watch this version, watch this." No, I want to stick to the original right now. And I just lost TV signal. I gotta get back up. Oh. It's been exciting. There's been a handful of delays and whatnot. So hopefully you guys will be seeing this by Halloween next year, or if not earlier. But it's been a trip. It's really cool the fact that I've been able to talk to people around the world. Like for example, John lives in Hawaii. I live in British Columbia, and we're like a 3-hour time difference. So it's been really crazy because I've talked to people from I think the farthest away was Berlin, and it's just been. This is something I wanted to do after I got out of high school. I graduated back in 2000, and but at the time, unless you lived in a major city and got an agent and all stuff, you couldn't do stuff like this because the technology was not really accessible. Like the whole online thing, like we're filming everything digitally. When we did the teaser trailer, which hopefully some of you've seen, we filmed literally all across the continent. A lot of them were in Austin, but Steve and I filmed with a guy named Paul up in Kelowna. And then there's the original we did back in 2019. So it's been the fact we got the word out there. And John, like, were you saying like you just saw something in like your feed on like YouTube or something like that, and you're like, oh, what's this?
For what?
Yeah, for like the Sawyer Massacre. You said, like you just came around it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean you. The way I discovered you and Steve was through that Bloody Disgusting article.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And then Joe Bob Briggs with his shout out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still basically a relatively new podcaster at the time, and I reached out to Steve, and me and him started talking, and I started promoting for you all. And
you've been probably one of our biggest advocates. There's Jason Knight, who lives in Toronto. He's been a really big one. And the fact that you guys have seen something that you like, and you're like, no, like we want this to be made because we want to make it for you guys, right? So we're really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Well, the way I told Steve is after, really getting to know you guys, I consider you all friends. And
me too.
As any good friend, I want to see my friends succeed.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you all not make this, because right now, man, I mean, with the garbage that gets released, especially in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre universe, I mean, every movie has its good points and its bad, and I understand that, and I've seen them all. But there was something that was like like a lightning in a bottle that Toby Hooper did. What was it now? God,
actually, you're pushing 45 now.
Yeah.
40,
so I'm running close to 50 years,
Yeah. No,
so
it's you look at this film like again, like I think it's because of the remakes and stuff like that, because until I got involved with this project, I don't think I ever actually sat down and watched it, because I wasn't really a horror fan until the last maybe I don't know, 8-9 years since I started dating my now wife, because she got me into the supernatural and horror stuff, because I'm not a big fan of the slashers, slasher stuff. Yeah, I know. she got me into the supernatural stuff because there's a lot of crappy supernatural stuff. A friend of mine, Jesse, back in high school, introduced me to some really cool stuff. But the more of what did we just see, or you had to interpret it, because even with Massacre, and hopefully some of you guys have seen it, and people that haven't and are watching this, there's everything comes together. And when the first time I saw it, I didn't realize. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was all related. I love it, right? But also the way that it's shot, it goes back to the old Hitchcock thing where your brain fills in the blanks where somebody looks like they're about to be impaled, and then there's a cut to a different angle and they're already on the hook. But in your brain you're going, oh, I saw the hook go in. Well, you didn't, but you think you did. That's how animation works, right? Because you fill in the blanks in between. But even with the blood now, ours is going to be bloodier. But there's not that much splatter, but it's more of the horror of being trapped in this movie, and it's fantastic. Again, this is why I have a huge appreciation for the original Blair Witch film, because you think you see things, you don't. And then the whole marketing around that too, where they made the fake documentary and how it's also loosely based off on actual events, but it's still, you're okay, you go home. This is why I've heard people talk about the paranormal activity. They said the movie didn't creep them out. Going home at night and hearing cracks in the house, that's what creeped them out. It was later on you thought of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One movie that did that to me recently, it came out about 3 years ago now. It's on Netflix. It's called Velvet Buzzsaw. And did I tell you about this one? So it takes place in LA, and it's this pretentious art community. But there's a guy that was this artist, and he ends up committing suicide. But his paintings, he mixed his own blood in with the paintings. But all the artwork is now cursed. So people that are, because I think he felt that arts killed him, it took him away. So pieces of art, either sculptures or paintings or whatever, come to life and start killing other people, but they kind of deserve it. And then there's one character that has lost the knack, and it's played by John Malkovich. And he's just I don't want to do this anymore, and he walks away from it. And sorry, spoiler, he's one of the only characters that is never affected by this, right? But Jake Gyllenhaal, not Renee Zellweger. I can't remember who it was on, but it's a really big cast, and it's all these different stories, and they all tie together. But that one messed with me later, and basically said without death there can't be art, or without pain there can't be art. And you're sitting there later on, you're like, what the hell did I just watch? So
there's another really good found footage film, and Michelle, if you're still with us, you might know what I'm talking about. It's called The Last Broadcast, and they made it before Blair Witch. It's about a group of news reporters that go out into the what they call the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
Yep.
And they are looking for the Jersey Devil.
Yep.
And towards the end of the film, they don't know if it was the actual news broadcaster that killed everybody or the Jersey Devil got them. So they really don't know. It just leaves you hanging at the end, and it was really cool, but it's hard to find. I mean, it's more, I mean, it's easier to access now, but there was a time, and it was trying to find the Holy Grail when it came to the VHS of it. And Blair Witch, yeah, that one scared the hell out of me. I remember I was 23 in 1999. That movie came out. I just moved on my own, and funny, I moved down a dirt road and was surrounded by woods. So every night when I'm coming home from work, because at the time I worked as a grocery store stocker, I know it's not the rock star job, but that's what I did too. Back in the
first
day.
job, yeah, first job, yeah.
And I would come home every night. Well, it would be like 3, 4 in the morning when I'd finally get off, and it would be so dark, and especially in the fall in North Carolina, we get that fog sometimes.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going, I hope the Blair Witch don't come out and eat me. I mean, because I literally, they duped me. Okay. I'm a dummy because they made me believe that witch eat up those kids in them woods. I literally bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yep. Well, the way that they sold it, right? Yeah. So, oh yeah, like it's that thing where, it doesn't matter how old you are. Everybody has the whole, I have to run up the stairs. I have to turn the light and run up the stairs before the monster gets me, kind of thing, right? So you're like, oh god. I love how my wife has a brilliant, dry sense of humor. And we were laying in bed one night, and we just hear, and we live in an apartment, right? So, but it's not that noisy, but we hear something, and it is in our apartment, and we're like, oh. Great. Well, nice knowing you, honey. So, so she gets up, and I said, "Okay, nice knowing you." So, kind of attitude.
Come on, Chupacabra, I'm here.
I know. We never figured out what it was, but we figured out later on that it was the apartment selling, because we noticed the hallway. There's a board that flexes every night, but one night we're like, "What was that?" So.
Yeah. I bought a K2 meter. I used to be big into ghost hunting and stuff. I used to like to go on ghost tours, so I bought my own equipment to use because I've always been interested, because I've had personal experiences.
Yep.
I think me and you haven't. I think me and Steve, maybe me and Michelle and some others, me and Luke especially have talked about it. I've had personal experiences. So I bought this K2 meter, and I got this spirit box, which, if you don't know what a spirit box is, it plays a bunch of radio stations really fast. And what you're trying to do is listen to see if you can hear any kind of phrases or words, because it's going so fast. If you hear a phrase or a word, then it's basically believed that it's otherworldly and or paranormal. So I'm sitting here one night, and I'm doing the spirit box thing, and it's got a word decipher on it. And all of a sudden I get, Grandma, hey, Luke's here.
What up?
Look at you laying in the grass.
Just laying in my grass, guys.
Well, your weather's way better than ours right now,
Scotty. That's my partner in crime, my hetero life mate,
That's
Mr.
right.
Luke Martin.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man. What you guys doing?
We're just sitting here. We were talking about wrestling, and we were talking about ghosts.
Oh,
you popped in just in time.
What's going on the ghost front, fellas?
I was talking about how, I had that spirit box, and we kept picking up names and stuff, especially at your shop.
Are you bringing up the fucking store again, man? I told you don't talk about it. I'm that who's got to work there late at night on Tuesdays, man. And in Susan, I don't know. If they come after me, I swear to God, or whatever the fuck's in control of all this horse shit, I swear to Satan, I'm gonna.
Hey, Michelle said, "Hey, Luke."
Hey, gang, Michelle. You got some shit. See, Michelle is the new president of our fan club. She won the pugil stick match last night against old boy Bebop.
Yeah, Johnny Tardis on here.
Johnny, you're fired. I'm sorry, you're VP. That's what you get. Keep on, Johnny. It wasn't even a bad movie. What's wrong with you?
Look, Michelle says, "Woot woot,
woot woot." Are you guys gonna? My baby is.
Look at that cuteness back there behind you.
I'm trying to see what's going on here. Where is she at?
Hey, Amelie.
I'm gonna go for a minute, and I'm gonna jump back on. All right.
All right, buddy.
Perfect.
Let me do my responsible parent thing and take care of my children. Nice to meet you, Scotty.
Absolutely.
And, I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, see you later, boo.
Bye.
See you soon. Oh man.
Yeah, that's been my best bud for the whole 8 years that I've lived over here.
Right on.
I met him when he was first starting to open his store.
Yep.
he was one of them guys. He just took a chance on himself and it paid off. But I remember walking in there because I was still avid in the comic collecting, and I walked in there and he was like, "Hey man, we ain't open yet." I was like, "Obviously not, because you all are still painting the walls."
Yeah.
But it was like after that day, we just became fast friends.
That's awesome.
Real quick. So
right on. Actually, one of my oldest friends, his name is Scott too. He's a big guy like me. So picture me bearded. I don't know. Yeah, I got to spend some time with him the other day, and he's been one of my oldest friends too. So yeah, it's neat when you can when you get that connection and whatnot. So yeah.
yeah, me and him just one day we were like, "Hey man," because it was during the COVID shutdown, and we were like, "Let's just do a podcast." We probably ain't gonna get nobody to listen to it because we're stupid and we act like idiots. So we're obviously not gonna get anybody to listen. And all of a sudden, we just started. God, the first episode. I wish to God I could find that file, guys. I want to put that out there just so you all can hear how terrible it was. We recorded that whole 2-hour episode on my old iPhone 10. It sounded like shit. I'm just gonna say. And we talked about God knows. I mean, nothing made sense. We were just, it was everybody talking over each other. And somehow, by the grace of God, 50 people decided to listen to that part. So me and him were like, wait, there's actually people out there that want to hear us idiots talk. Okay. So we were like, man, we really got to find a niche here. Really got to find a niche. And then I've always been a horror nerd. And Luke is, but Luke's more of a horror comics guy. That's where he's always liked. He has trouble with horror movies because it doesn't make sense a lot of times and it annoys him. And I get it. But to me, that's the beauty of it, and that's what I like. But with him, it was like we were just sitting there, I was like, man, we really got to find a niche here because we've got the name. So what could it be? And then he was like,
from there, yes.
He's like, well, you like horror movies and all that crap, so let's go with that. I was like, okay. And the next thing you know, boom, it was like Germany, France, England, Canada, Los Angeles, here especially because we were local here. And then next thing I know, I'm meeting Steve and you and all these other people, and I've become real good friends with a guy in France that plays death metal music. And I mean, God, look, Etienne is the nicest, sweetest person I have ever met in my life. But when he puts that face paint on, he looks like he's going to eat your soul. So if you see this, Etienne, I'm telling you, you're pretty damn terrifying on stage. But sweetest, nicest dude I've ever met from France. And he decided he wanted to play death metal with jazz mixed in. So he's up on stage with a saxophone with death metal in the background. And it's the weirdest. It sounds so weird, like it would never work. And somehow he's pulled it off. But he's a musical prodigy, man. I swear that dude is so damn talented. And I told him that. I was like, you just keep doing you because you're not scared to step outside the box and do something different. He was like, man, the first time I walked down on stage at a metal concert with that saxophone, he was like, you would not believe the people, those metal purists going, what the fuck is this? This is bullshit. What is it? And, you know, he was just...
Man.
But they've had it hard in France right now over the lockdown, so I hope they're all doing well.
Steve's on.
Oh,
right on. Hey, Steve.
He said he's just saying hi. I have 7 more days of shot list to get back to. That's a busy, busy man, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we're still trying to lock down dates. I've seen the photos of the location, which looks crazy. I love it. I'm up on all my tetanus shots, so I'm happy about that. So, yeah, because we're looking. I believe Steve was saying that it's going to be about a 14-day shoot. And we don't know exactly where in March we're going to film yet because of a schedule. So I've just kept March open, fortunately, because when I got hired at the new job, I said, yeah, I'm going to be unavailable for like 3 weeks in March, because 2 weeks of shooting and then plus travel time. So, but I think I convinced Steve that we're going to fly down, because I went through the numbers, and from the airport in Kelowna to Austin, Texas, with a layover in Seattle, it's like a 13-hour trip, opposed to a 36 to 40-hour trip one way driving, and it's like 2.5 days. And so breaking everything down, I'm like, we're gonna save like $1,000 if we fly. So yeah. And my passport's is still in the works, but I should hopefully have that back by December. Yeah, so really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve says it makes sense to fly.
Yeah.
I'm still terrified of death
Yeah.
tubes, but I'll get on them and fly.
There's like a 6-hour layover in Seattle, but whatever, right? But with the COVID testing right now, some places where you land, you get tested, but then they hold you for X amount of hours. So, but the rules going back and forth with driving, I'm like, okay, so do I drive like all day and then have to sit for 5 hours, right? So, yeah, I think it's just going to be less stressful overall if we fly, as long as they don't lose their luggage, and like knock on wood, right? So,
yeah, luckily Texas is a little lenient on the whole COVID restrictions. It is with all the Republican states, especially here in the United States. But
it's mainly coming back into Canada. I talked to somebody that flew it from Arizona, and he had to get tested, but he was down there for a long time. Yeah, so but he got his shots in the States, so I think that's what it was, because he didn't have ones for Canada. So yeah, so we'll see, but that may change by like March. So
Steve says still waiting for the immigration lawyer to get back to me and just how to figure out how the right visa needed.
Yep, yeah, I tried to look into it, and was talking to Steve about it. We have a sponsor, so that's good, but we can do the visa for staying, but for actually working, it's not worth it, because if we go down, they're like, well, there's that question is like something along the lines of is there anyone else that can do your job? And your brain going, well, like, no, absolutely not. So you have to have like self-confidence about it too. I'm
6'7" and playing Leatherface.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody else that can do my job.
My brother-in-law works for a GPS company, and he literally wrote the programming for it. And then they used existing hardware, but he wrote the programming for it. And he had a contract down in Portland, Oregon, because all the city trucks uses software, and something crashed in the actual hardware system. So he had to fly down. They're like, well, is there anyone else that can do this? He's like, I built the thing. No. So, yeah. So no, there isn't. He says, do you have a work visa? He's like, no, I had to get down there so the city of Portland can, like, I don't know, clean their streets and remove garbage. So, yeah. So they're like, okay, go ahead.
I'm trying, and I don't know if Steve's still with us or if he might have jumped off. He might have jumped off, but I've got 2 weeks of vacation coming, and I'm trying to hold off. So when you all get down to Texas, I want to come down there and visit you all in person and take you all out to dinner and stuff.
No, you're going to get a big hug, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Because I'd like to come to Canada, but restrictions from here to Canada is terrible. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to wait till they get to Texas, and then I'm going to fly down to Texas and see them.
It probably would be easier, because you could probably get a flight directly to like LA or like around there. And then
I know my way around Austin pretty good. I'm not like super knowledgeable, but I spent some time down there while I was in the military. So
I know. I was
barbecue joints there, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Ones.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Actually, speaking of barbecue, my wife made me some really good sausage right now.
Steve said that would be sweet. Yeah, man, because I want to meet you guys in person. I'm tired of it just being on the TV screen. Don't worry, I ain't going to give away none of your secrets. I don't need y'all hunting down.
Well, the movie's about this family. Yeah. So.
Please don't do that. Yeah. Steve calling. No. What is he doing? Turn it off.
Like, wait, what is this movie? What were we watching? It's like watching a Titanic film and not knowing the ship goes down at the end, right? So,
Yeah. It just so happens there's a psychopath cannibal chainsaw guy on the ship. So not only do you got to worry about the ship sinking, but you also got to worry about a cannibalistic chainsaw guy.
That would be a mashup right there, yeah.
Hey, Jazz. Jazz is one of my coworkers from work.
Hi, Jazz.
She's got like the coolest name ever, Jazz. I just got regular old John. Well, before we start watching this movie, I am going to ask a bit of trivia because I've got one of these collector's edition Steelbook Blu-rays to give away.
Neat.
Oh, wait, here it is. By the way, hold on, let me get it on here. It says, by the way, Scotty, Jennifer RPC seems to think that the chainsaw would weigh up to
about
50
pounds. That doesn't surprise me. I'm prepared for it. Just don't make me hold it above my head for long periods of time. Like I'll do the shots, but yeah, I'll be get your upper body strength. Yeah. No, I'm booking enough time off because I know I'm going to be very sore after this shoot. And then we actually have a vacation booked to Alaska 5 weeks later. So yeah, that was an interesting thing to say to my boss is like, hey, I know it's like during the interview, I says, I have these two things coming up. They're like, yeah, sure, fine.
I was told 35 originally.
Yeah, because it's oh yeah. I just imagine how, and it's gonna be so dense too, just like the actual like construction of it. Yeah, so well,
I found it's easier to eat than it is to work out.
Oh yeah. Work out this muscle here, yeah. No, I got back to work and I'm already feeling much better because I was hitting up the gym, but I just got to the point in the gym. I'm like, okay, because I gain bulk faster than like muscle. I think like everyone does, right? But then I will go from like if I work out, I go from like a V to like a pear. So, so my shoulders were looking great, and then I stopped going to the gym just because finances, right? So I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. But I got my stamina up, so yeah. The only real concern is the mask I did try on. I can breathe relatively easy through my mouth, but that's really going to be the biggest concern is just making sure I have enough breath. But if not, we don't have any like I don't have to run like 100-meter dash or something like that constantly. So, but it's going to be fortunately when we're shooting, it's going to be about, I don't know, I think someone said around 72. So that's around like high 20s in Celsius. Totally tolerable, but the humidity is going to be way different than what I'm used to here. So it's just more like environmental stuff. It's just if we're tired, we'll just stop, reset, try to get as much in every day as we can. So yeah.
Well, me and you were big boys. We're only good to short burst. We ain't good for distance.
Yeah.
I'll catch you in a short distance, but after that it's
or the old joke, it's like you look at somebody, you say, you know what the difference is between running and running scared? You want to find out? So oh man. No,
here, let me put this mask on real quick and grab this chainsaw.
Yeah.
We'll find out just how far you can run.
Yeah, it was really fun doing the test fitting for the mask. And it was so weird because you can see my eyes, and not really my mouth because it's obscured, but when the eyes kind of droops down. I'm not spoiling anything here, so don't worry, because there's like the original. There's more than one, but the test mask, it was a lot of fun to put on. Initially, it was like super tight, but we were able to stretch it out because I have a big head, right? And I did a photo, and I realized it doesn't matter really what I do, except with like my eyelids, you can't see what I'm doing. So I think the fact that all the masks are just going to be this blank, well, even like the original, like just this blank kind of constant expression, I think is fantastic. So I tried figuring out doing these with my eyes because I can see quite well in this mask, which was another concern because I'm like, okay, can I only see in front of me? But I have peripheral vision up to a certain point, and I wear glasses, so like I'm used to it anyways. But I'll be able to actually be able to see. But also getting used to wearing the mask these past year and a half. I can't really see down, but unless it's right in front of me, I'm fine too. So, but yes, do you do the Leatherface dance?
Sadly, he can't tell you much of anything about the movie, Johnny. That's the only.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to throw some quote unquote Easter eggs in there. But whenever someone puts something up there, I always throw the GIF of like the chainsaw dance at the end. So like I'm this happy, right? So yeah,
You got to. I will
yeah,
say, Steve, he's got to.
we'll see how
We got to get
heavy.
him in shape.
We'll see how heavy the chainsaw is first, and we'll go from there. But I have an idea. I found a funny thing. It was done as like an old dance chart, but it was the chainsaw dance. Yeah, like you can Google that, and like it's like the chainsaw dance in like 6 steps or something like that. So, yeah. So, actually, I was at work the other day, and because it was Halloween, the Time Warp came on from like Rocky Horror, and I did Rocky Horror way back in the day. And if anyone knows the play, I played Dr. Scott. I know that. I was supposed to play Eddie, but they got someone else to play Eddie because in the original version, Dr. Scott and Eddie were both played by Meatloaf back in the old like Roxy version. And I was choked when they said, "No, we're gonna cast 2 people." I'm like, I wanted to do Eddie, man. So, but it was a lot of fun to do. It was a super low budget um, production. It was actually co-put on by our local high school. I had graduated by that point. We did it Halloween of 2001. So I graduated in 2000, and my old drama teacher gives me a call, says, "Hey, we're doing this fundraiser. But we want to get back people that have that were either in high school or had graduated to come back and play characters." And so I said, "Absolutely." And it was a weird time for everybody because it's September 11th. That affected everything. We technically did it illegally because when the attacks happened, everything shut down.
Yeah.
So we had submitted for the rights for the play. We technically used a pirated script because we couldn't get it, but we had already booked the time, and it was for a fundraiser. So we did Rocky Horror, but we didn't. It wasn't actually legal. So, but because it was a fundraiser, people left us alone. So, yeah, and other than a couple of the band members, because they were actual like proper session players, nobody got paid for it. Like it was all volunteers. So, but it was a lot of fun to do. And we if you're familiar with the show, at the beginning it's at the end of a wedding. We did it as a dinner theater, so we did the wedding reception. So I got to play another character in that. I got to play the father of the bride, and that was a lot of fun to play around with. But again, it's trying to corral a bunch of people and people stay in character because we had about, oh gosh, with all the students with the chorus, we had about 30 people in the cast, and it was trying to help coach these teenagers basically so that you have to have a character, and if someone comes up to you, like you have to play that character. Like when people were coming in, we were in a reception line, so we had to. It was really made your brain like think about for like improv stuff, because people come up and like someone would walk up to you, and I would use like the same 4 or 5 stories. But I would say, oh, it's like Uncle Tim or something like that, and people would sometimes they were like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. People were like, I'm not Tim. So just like you mess with them, right? Yeah.
Steve, awesome guys. Have to go pick up my wife and kid up. Saw you later.
See you later, buddy. You're done. Saw.
So I've got a limited edition, collector's edition, or whatever, limited edition. Yeah, limited edition steelbook of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've got 2 copies of this. So that means I got 2 trivia questions this time around. So my first trivia question for it is, according to John Larroquette, what was his payment for doing the opening narration of the film?
That's actually one I do not know. Actually, Johnny Tardis just asked, is it true that Eddie lives in the original play? I'm not sure. I haven't read the original stage production. But it's possible because he's seen the show. Frankenfurter was he was trying to make basically a love slave. So it was Magenta. No, hold on. I'm getting messed up. So the one girl who was in love with Eddie, he tried to have her basically be like a love slave, and then he was attracted to Eddie, but he took up part of Eddie's brain, and that part of the brain is in Rocky. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I'm not sure if he actually lives in the original, but the original play, Meatloaf played Eddie, and then he came back as Dr. Scott later on, and that was supposed to be the joke because it's like his uncle and nephew kind of thing, right? So yeah.
So Michelle, you won this.
Aha!
One
Right on.
joint. One
Nice.
marijuana joint.
Nice.
To Mr. John Larroquette
Uh,
from Night Court.
mm-hmm.
What was his name? Dan Felding? Yeah, Dan Felding from Night Court.
Right on. Actually, episode of Futurama, Bender's in like a cemetery, and it says, "No one can say that I don't own John Larroquette's spine." So, like, dug him up.
Also, guys, I had took these down from the store, but I think I'm going to bring them back because I had such a good, overwhelming response for them, and I raised $200 for your movie there, Scotty, by selling these. And that is the Sawyer Massacre Behind the Fiends t-shirts. So,
wow,
they're going back up in the store. And on the back, it says Sawyer Massacre coming soon. Well,
nice.
So I am bringing those back for a short time. So Monday, look for them in the Teespring store. I think I'm going to run them probably through the holidays.
Perfect.
Get that Christmas money.
Right on.
So right now I've raised $200, and I got to get with Steve to find out who won the Butchered in the Basement, because that is the money. That money that I raised for those with those shirts is what I'm donating to get somebody butchered in the basement for that perk. So
right on.
Go out and get you one of those t-shirts, guys. They're limited. You're not going to find them anywhere else. Well, not anywhere else with Behind the Fiends and Sawyer Massacre on them anyway. All 100% of the proceeds that I get from those shirts goes straight to Steve and Scotty to make the Sawyer Massacre.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Thank you, John. Yeah. Actually, someone asked me the other day, it's like, hey, like, because they're like, hey, like, does the podcast make any money? I says, no, that's not what this is for. Like, this is for fun, right? Like, and I know the amount of charity work that you've been like raising money for and stuff like that. It's been fantastic. And I explained that to him. He says, "Oh, okay." He says, "No, I'm doing this. I'm not doing it as a favor. I'm doing it with a friend and to have fun and to talk to everyone on here too. This has been fantastic. Like, yeah, like
Well, I understand their point too. There's so many
yeah.
shysters on the internet, man, always looking for super chats and stuff. Like, I'm not going to answer your question unless you donate $10 to me. I'm not that dude, man. I'm never going to be that dude.
I had something without going to names, but myself and a couple of the people in the cast were getting like, "Hey, do you want to be in our movie?" But the presenter basically saying, "Hey, come down and film a scene." But it was basically a pay to play thing. And so this guy was raising all this money, and he said he had all these different actors attached to it, and there was no evidence anything was ever shot. So he was giving Indiegogo a bad name. He was giving independent movies a bad name. And or people would say like they would film something basically on like a webcam or something like that, and nothing ever came out. Like our perks weren't being fulfilled. So like he's just it's stuff like that that puts a bad name. So you have to be careful, but at the same time you also have to take a chance. But you have to really vet it. This is how scams work in general, because you're like, oh well, it's like
me and I think Dave Kerr from Slasher 15 Productions, when I did my episode with him this morning, me and him was talking, and I really think that indie filmmakers ought to get together and create their own Kickstarter platform. And because with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you got people trying to make self-lacing shoes and blenders that make, whatever, and then comic books and movies. It's so convoluted and confusing. There needs to be one simple crowdfunding source for indie filmmakers.
Agreed.
And that way there can be a body of people that oversees this and can vet these filmmakers and make sure they're legit, because I've came across some that are like, I've got Kane Hodder and Doug Bradley coming in my movie. And it's like, no, you don't. Because Doug Bradley's a SAG actor, and so is Kane Hodder. They're not going to be in your film if you don't have a SAG card yourself.
There was one recently. It was this one particular producer, whatever, said that like Tom Sizemore was in his or had been in one, and he was going to be in this one. And I'm like, okay, I know Tom Sizemore's had troubles in the past, and he probably is trying to get work, but would he really do this project? So,
I mean, he was in It Was Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Before he got. I mean, this was after he had the whole issues, so I'm hoping he's doing better, because I love Tom Sizemore.
He's had several, like he is fantastic. Like he was in Pearl Harbor, but he is fantastic in Saving Private Ryan. Like he's one of those actors that really should, like he was a character actor. Like he was never really a leading man thing, but like he's one of those actors that whenever you saw him, he was very engaging. It's just he had personal troubles. So I remember he was on like Celebrity Rehab back in the day, and that was like at the height of like his major addiction problems, and he age relapse, unfortunately. And actually going back to other actors, not Sean, Conroy. He was in Grease. He was in Babylon 5.
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
That one's very tragic. And it stems back to when they were filming Grease, when the story goes he injured his back when they were filming, I think it was Beauty School Dropout, because like all the guys were like on this wire work stuff, and he injured his back and he started getting into painkillers, and he had an addiction problem, and he kind of, I guess it was manageable in the 90s, but once he stopped working late 90s, it got really bad. But also his partner was didn't try to stop him. Like she was a facilitator, and it's very tragic because he was the stuff he did do was really good. Like if there was any mid to late 90s Babylon 5 actors, he was great in that show. And yeah. So anyways, it's sad, but.
I loved Corey Haim growing up, man. Yep. I thought he was such a great actor, from Silver Bullet to what was that other movie where he played like the with Charlie Sheen? Oh God! But then when he got in Lost Boys and Dream a Little Dream and License to Drive, and
the Charlie Sheen one was was probably Lucas.
Yes, it was. It was Lucas.
Without really triggering anyone out there, you know the whole thing with Corey Feldman right now doing that documentary.
Yeah, that supposedly Sheen and I'm not going to say it because I don't want us to get taken down. But yeah.
Sorry.
But it is prevalent. It was prevalent back then for those child stars to get taken advantage of. It happened in the 80s. You take a kid at 10, 11, 12 years old, and all of a sudden you got, he's a sex symbol at that age, which is entirely weird, but they become sex symbols. And then you got older women throwing themselves at these kids.
Yep.
That happened. These kids are being, introduced to cocaine and God only knows what else. They're kids. They're easily impressionable, and they're probably going to try it.
Well, you actually look back to way back. You look at was it Mickey Rooney did a like an autobiography, and in his book he talks about how he was the one that took Judy Garland's virginity. She was 13. He was 16.
Yep.
And Judy Garland, that's another brilliant performer, but was used, and it's sad because she was
so just unbelievably beautiful too.
Yeah, she was a fantastic talent. Also, unfortunately, I've hit that point where you hear things where it's just, like the whole Me Too movement and stuff like that. You hear stories and it's almost to the point where like, why is that a surprise? Now, sometimes it's a surprise when you hear a particular actor. You're like, oh, come on, man. Like you really like that person or whatever, right? And you find out they did what? Now, I do believe that everyone is allowed to make mistakes. Everyone is allowed to redeem themselves, but there's certain things that it takes a lot of redeeming, or it's just flat out unforgivable, where it's predatory. But you can do the broad strokes, or you can do case by case, but it's really up to you at the end of the day. Like, I remember somebody was saying, you like an actor's body of work, and they say, okay, well, if you find out that they were a scumbag, right? Can you still like their body of work? They said, well, think of it this way, like them until you found out, like them to the point where you find out that they were the scumbag, but it's really up to you. Like, okay, throw it out there. Kevin Spacey, fantastic actor. Personal life, forget it. Right?
Kind of a scumbag.
Yeah. But his performance is fantastic. But it's like, again, where it's like the art and the artist thing. Where do you separate? Like, people have strong opinions about Michael Jackson. I got a few myself. I'm not going to talk about him. So, are you going to work? Just 1 second. Come here.
Okay.
Love you. Have fun. You too. See you soon. My wife's heading to work, so I just want to say goodbye.
But Jazz just brought up one too, Drew Barrymore. She was, Barrymore.
Yeah,
very much.
She was an alcoholic by the time she was like 9 or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she's one of the really lucky cases where she was able to recover and make a really, really long career. But like, you look at other people where like they lose a job. Like, there's a thing in the tabloids right now talking about how Brittany Murphy, they said like the real truth, like it's to sell magazines, obviously, right? But Brittany Murphy basically once, she did a voice on King of the Hill. She did a bunch of movies, but then she basically didn't have work anymore. Even though she started trying to do a singing career. When the last thing she probably did was she did a voice and a song in like Happy Feet years and years ago. But she when she passed, apparently she was really heavy into like opiate and heroin. She was diabetic and she wasn't treating it. But the story what I heard is basically they found her in her house everything was sold. Like she had sold everything because she was so heavily into drugs. And but that can happen to anybody. Like I get it too because like I do a lot of live performing, and afterwards too, it's like you're like I don't want this to end. But fortunately, I've never. I don't drink a lot. I've never done hardcore drugs. But like I'm like, oh, I get it why people want to feel that euphoric feeling. And that was an interesting thing that I discovered. And so I'm all for like marijuana, recreational to a point, but when it comes to a point where it's like you have to take it to function, yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, my unfortunately, my high school career is kind of a blur. I was a little bit burnt out.
I this past year, because the last 2 years, like everyone, COVID, right? I started to have a huge appreciation for craft beer. I love it. I can't afford to be an alcoholic because the stuff I like is expensive. But I did start taking marijuana edibles because it is legal in Canada now. So, but it just helps me sleep. Like, but I've never had the whole like I want to go get messed up kind of thing. But same time, it's
I take CBD oil for anxiety because I have social anxiety disorder. So,
and looking back in my 20s, I probably could have benefited from it. Yeah. So, is cannabis legal in no? What about like medical?
Yes, you can get medical marijuana here. They're trying to push to legalize it, which God knows they should. Hawaii would make a killing off of it. It would cure their economy here.
It would probably help with some of the other stuff too. So, yeah.
I mean, I've watched guys just walk down the sidewalk here, especially in my neighborhood, just smoking a joint. That's no big deal, you know. So it's like, why keep it, illegal? I mean, Tommy Chong even made good points about it when I've watched certain interviews with him. There's so much more good to come out of it than there is bad. There is plenty of evidence showing that, Native American or indigenous people, I should say, had used it for medicinal purposes to cure disease. So I don't know, how can you keep calling it a narcotic that is on the same level as heroin, which does nothing but kill people, or cause them to get so addicted that they sell off everything that they own? Crack, which that has no medicinal purposes whatsoever. Cocaine, cocaine was created by the Coca-Cola company back in the day to drink before, and I did research on it out of curiosity and came to find out that Coca-Cola used to have a cocaine farm here on Oahu.
Really?
I bet you didn't know that, did you, Jazz?
No.
That Coca-Cola company used to, a long time ago, I think it was back in the 20s or 30s, when Hawaii was still a territory, and it wasn't a state, so therefore it wasn't overseen by the federal government of the United States. So Coca-Cola worked around that and grew cocaine here on the island for Coca-Cola.
Oh man. Yeah, it's like it's really funny because you can still find it, but basically it was turn of the century, and it was medicinal heroin for kids.
What?
I know. It's like what? It's like, I think it was done in like a drop form because people didn't quite. Well, was it Coca-Cola basically was created to help people that were coming off of morphine from like the Civil War, and they're like, hey, have this so you don't get like basically like DTs, right? So
and my grandmother said that when she was a nurse, they used to give it to people for stomach issues.
Yep. Was it chancellor in Germany in the 1930s. So don't get flight. He said he was a vegetarian, but well, actually, even like Elvis Presley, he got hooked on basically amphetamines from the army, but he was totally against any kind of cannabis or marijuana or anything like that, because there's that famous photo of him shaking hands with Richard Nixon. And that's a fascinating story too. There's actually a couple movies about that too, where how he disappeared for 3 days. He showed up in Washington and he got home, but people were like, how did he get across the country? Because Elvis never carried cash on him. There wasn't really credit cards as it were now. He was able to fly across the country and evade everybody, get a hold of the president, meet him, take a photo with him, and you look at the photo too, he is high, and get home. And basically his crew are going, Elvis is in DC. Like, how did that happen, right? So oh
Yeah, Jazz said, yes, I knew that, and some of the land was used where her ancestors were in Waialua.
oh
So
I
I
know
guess
that
it is relatively known here on the island then.
I know that Dole, the Dole family for fruit and whatnot, still has, at least in name, has a lot of holding over there still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hunter S. Thompson did a book. I'm trying to find the name of it. Oh, I think he was on the campaign trail with Nixon
Yeah.
back in the day. And supposedly, I want to say it was Nixon, and supposedly Hunter S. Thompson kept all those political guys like high on mescaline and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yep. Hunter S. Thompson, I didn't really know what he did. Like, he was a writer, like he was like a writer, a journalist. I actually watched a short documentary about him a little while ago, and I'm like, this guy just didn't give a shit, did he? So
no, Hunter S. Thompson definitely was a force of nature. Is the best way for me to describe him. I mean, I've read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He did a book on the Hells Angels. He spent like a year with the Hells Angels.
Yep.
I think the other one was called Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. That's the one I was.
Yeah.
The Nixon administration. He was what was called gonzo journalism.
Yep.
It was just basically a bunch of hippies that were just acid out of their minds or anything. I mean, if you want to read a book on how somebody managed to live through drugs, read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or even watch the Johnny Depp movie, because
I heard it's good. I heard it's really, really good. Yeah. And how Johnny Depp basically has done a variation of that character for years. So,
well, he was real tight with Hunter.
He was, yeah.
There towards the end of Hunter's life. Well, Hunter took his own life, but he was like, man, I was over at Hunter S. Thompson's house one night, and he goes, hey, I got this new shotgun. You want to go shoot it real quick? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then he was like, he just grabs it and just walks out on his back porch with all of his neighbors around and just starts ripping off rounds over people's roofs.
There's a brilliant story with Alice Cooper. He was over either at Graceland, or he was in a house with like Elvis Presley. Sorry. And Elvis said, hey, like, because he was in to self-defense and like karate and all stuff. I says, here, take this gun, I'll knock it out of your hand, right? Elvis kept his gun loaded. So he said, all right, pick it up. I just pointed at me. So he's pointing at him. And Alice Cooper's telling the story. Basically, he said, he's standing there going, okay, well, what do I do? Kind of, right? And then he said he heard this little voice that said, do it. He's like, kind of thing, right? Like the little angel and devil thing. Dude, he's like, what was that about? Oh, man.
Well, you ready to watch a movie, guys?
Absolutely.
I know we've been talking, but you guys enjoyed listening to me and Scotty talk. If you have Amazon Prime, you can go on there, unless you're in Canada. For some reason, Canada for free for whatever reason.
I think it is. I think it is on Crave, which is like basically our HBO / portal for everything up here because it rates. I have a copy on iTunes, and that's where I'll be watching it from. So it's the 40th anniversary, but the film is the same, so there's no extra scenes or anything like that too.
Yeah.
So
I've got tons of copies from this movie. Actually, these steel books, I've got 2 of them, and that's what I was giving away for the trivia.
right on.
I have in my collection, this is how much of a nerd I am for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, guys, and don't judge me, okay? I think I told Steve, I've counted 20 copies of this film. I even have the collector's edition Black Mariah set that comes with the bloody apron and a bunch of cards, and then a letter of authenticity that was written by Toby Hooper, which of course it probably wasn't written by Toby Hooper because he was dead before the Black Mariah set came out. But
Jeez.
This is supposedly the actual Toby Hooper cut still,
Oh, perfect.
But I'm pretty sure it's been like, remastered so the picture quality is better because the old VHS did not hold up whatsoever, because I have that as well. I don't have the original VHS from like I think it was like the late 70s, early 80s when VCRs came into play. That, go on eBay and look up 1974 original VHS copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There is a guy on there right now that was selling it for $35,000.
Wow.
And it's still in the cellophane and everything.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Michelle Blasky's on here.
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Michelle is a talented filmmaker. She is making a Halloween 3 fan film based on the Season of the Witch called The Third Channel. She's going to be doing a crowdfund here soon. Michelle, when is your crowdfund supposed to launch?
Wait for it. Yeah.
Yeah, wait for it.
I actually saw recently a breakdown of all the Halloween timelines because was it Halloween 2 or like the original 2 or 3 was actually an anthology film. Now I'm just catching up on these. So the latest ones, basically, they disregard everything else, which is fine because even Scream is doing that too. How they're disregarding everything after, I think, Scream 2, because there was a Scream 3 and 4. But they're basically, it's interesting because it's cool to see the actors back. I actually like that when because like you take Star Wars like 30 plus years later, but when a character can embrace it, like the new Chucky series, which I want to catch up on. There's a rumor that either cameos or they're going to cast some of the original actors in different roles. Like I can't. Space the same, but the actor that did the voice of him, like he's done so much stuff, right? He's going to show up in a couple episodes too.
Brad Dourif.
Yep, he's his voice. Yeah, his characters, because he's done TV, movies, all stuff. Like he played Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings movies. He was a recurring character on Star Trek Voyager. Played and it was like Betazoid that was like a serial killer or something like that, right? So yeah, but just that voice, and I remember this years and years ago, I realized like, oh, that's the same guy. I love that, right? Yeah. But I love it when I have that weird thing where, I mean, there was actually a documentary years ago done by Joe DiMaggio, who does a ton of cartoon voices. Like he did Bender and Futurama. He's done characters on like Adventure Time.
He did Joker for Behind the Red Hood.
Yeah, that's right. So he's been around for. He did not Dead Space, Gears of War too. Like he's on a lot of stuff. He produced a documentary years ago. I think it's still on Netflix. It's called I Know That Voice, and he interviews all these different actors. And I've had a knack over the last few years of hearing voices. Many of them I know their names. I'll be sitting there watching a movie. It annoys the hell out of my wife. where I'll say, "Oh, that voice right there. Remember this movie over here?" She says, "Yeah, it's the same guy." She's like, "Oh, okay." Like D. Bradley Baker, who did the voice of the clones in the Star Wars Clone Wars series. But you may not hear him say words, but he has done everything in the Conjuring universe. Any kind of monster sounds, that's him.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
crooked man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually. Oh, John DiMaggio was.
So Michelle Blasky's crowdfund will launch this Tuesday, November 9th. So go out and support that, guys.
We will check that out. Steve has
Get
been
that
pushing
movie
it.
made.
Yeah,
I would love for her to get Tom Atkins in that movie too, man. That would be so awesome. But I'm pretty sure he's a SAG card holder, and I know how that.
Yeah. Well, in Canada, I don't know if it works the same down in the States, but for theater acting, there's equity, which I do believe exists in the States too. But like you can do certain things, but there's a theater that we use is actually union theater. Now you can have non-union performers, but the stage workers are all union. Now you can move set piece and stuff like that, but like someone said, like, well, why is there union? I said, well, it's job security is a big one, right? Also, so you don't hire people off the street to do random stuff, right? So because there's a lot of money, like a lot of theaters, just to turn the lights on is anywhere from $200 to $500. People are like, why? I says, well, time, because you're paying for the person, not just the person, but you're paying for like electrical and all stuff. I've heard of stories where some stadiums, it's cheaper to leave the lights on than it is to shut them off, because just that startup thing, I'd say. Although yeah. I think that was busted by the MythBusters. Yeah, so so it's like, oh, it's cheaper to leave them on than to like turn them on and off. So,
but that makes sense because a lot of those lights, they have to heat up, and anytime, and I went to college to be an electrician now, but I'm a little rusty on it. Anytime heat is produced by electricity, it causes it to consume more voltage, something to that effect. So you'll watch the meter. You could cut a hairdryer on in your house, and your meter, the old school meters that used to spin, well, it'll be sitting there going slow, and just as soon as you cut that hairdryer on, or dryer or anything like that.
Why you pop circuit breakers when you turn the space heater on. Yeah, so I did that once, not with the space heater, but I realized I was cooking something, and I think I put a piece of toast in, and I had something else on, and all of a sudden, like half the kitchen just went on. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. So, right, I know what I did. Yeah.
So Johnny Tardis said, if you have Tubi, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is free on that, by the way.
I don't know if that's available in Canada, but if you guys have the means and you are in Canada, please take it out. So, Sean, what do you say? Want to get going?
Yep.
Okay.
So
guys, I have to go to work at 8:30 tonight, so we better keep this going.
Yeah. So guys, if you've got it, you've already got it pulled up. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to get it pulled up, and then give me thumbs up. Whoever wants to watch it along with us, you don't have to. You can just listen to me and Scotty talk as we watch it. I'm sure Scotty's seen it many times as a film study for having to play Leatherface. So he's going to have more insight on things that I didn't pick up on, mannerisms and different things. I've seen the movie a ton. It's hands down to me the greatest horror movie ever made. Maybe you argue that with me. That's up for debate.
I won't debate it, but it is definitely up there as probably one of the, not really sleeper hits, but one of those where like, wow, what did we just watch moment? Like, it was something special. Yeah.
So Michelle's got the thumbs up. Johnny, Michelle Blasky, if you want to watch it, okay, Johnny's all set. So,
and if you guys have any questions through too, I'll do my best to ask or to like answer what you have.
Yeah, the only thing that Scotty can't answer is anything to do with Sawyer Massacre. Because Steve will get like really mad, and then Steve will be really mad at me.
Yeah. There's one scene coming up. You and I have talked about before. I will not spoil anything, but it's that one scene that you and I have slightly different interpretations.
Yep.
And all I can say is once you guys see our movie, that scene will make sense. You may understand what he may be thinking, but the cool thing is because Leatherface doesn't talk, you can fill in the blanks, so that's part of the fun too. But I have taken that scene for a major plot element in our movie. I'm using that as a moment. So yeah.
Michelle says she loves Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Saw at the theater when it came out.
Right on. No, yeah.
I wish I could have.
I wasn't born yet.
No, I was too. I was just a twinkle in my dad's eye while he was at basic training for the Marine Corps.
Oh goodness,
1974.
No, I will be 40 on December 3rd, and actually share this.
46 on February 19th.
Oh, not far behind you. But actually share my birthday with Ozzy Osbourne actually. So yeah, kind of cool.
don't be biting no heads off no bats now.
No. All right,
so guys, we're going to get this started. I'm going to do a countdown from 5. So get ready, Johnny. I'm 37. Michelle says she was 1 in 1974.
Gosh, right on.
All right, so
no, I was born December of 81, so it's kind of cool. John, if I'm too loud at my end, just let me know, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
A vortex. Oh, missed it. Yes.
Kim Hinkle. He's got a website that's devoted entirely to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he signs old school movie posters and puts them on there for $100 a piece. So if y'all want an original Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster with Kim Hinkle's autograph, go over there because they sell out pretty quick, and $100 is not bad for Kim Hinkle's autograph. If you've got the Benjamin to throw around for it.
Looking at the opening crawl narration in here, with Larry Head's voice, just makes it fantastic. But it's kind of almost harkens back to the whole 1950s and 60s thing, where it was like having the quote unquote nurse to sign a waiver before you go into the theater. Like they always had So.
Michelle, you don't see the movie. It's actually on Amazon Prime for free because of copyright issues. I can't show it on the live stream. StreamYard will terminate my broadcast if I try to play it. Which I always thought that Texas Chainsaw Massacre was in public domain, but I guess not.
I think because the sequels are being made. Interesting, yeah. So the opening scene here where the corpses have been posed and there's the flashing. I always thought this was like someone taking a photo of the crime scene, basically, right? Because the graves had been dug up and desecrated. But it wasn't until later that I realized it was the hitchhiker. And I thought that was sorry if I'm spoiling this for anybody. So hopefully you guys have seen this film, because I'm going to say things about it, but how everything ties together at the end, how they meet this cast of characters and they end up meeting together at the end. Well, one of them does. And that makeup effect too of the corpse is gross and still holds up. That is awesome. Yeah.
Do you know the backstory of how they made that? Did they use fiberglass and just some?
I'm not
oil
actually. This is one I don't know much about. This stuff I know about. The house, how the guy when he dressed the house, how he literally drove around for weeks looking for anything dead.
And
bones,
it came
feathers,
up on the armadillo and different things.
Yeah. This I'm not sure if it was a wax like glycerin mixture, but
Yeah, the
things,
dripping is really
yeah. It's always odd when you see stuff like this when they actually film within a cemetery. Hopefully you get permission to do this, but you're still doing it in a cemetery, so it could offend somebody, but at the same time it's like it's telling a story, it's not making fun of it. So
yeah. Johnny Tardis said it looks like somebody opened the Ark of the Covenant.
yep. That I know how they filmed. Yeah. It was a wax model of the actual actors, and then they basically took a blow dryer to it and sped up the film. It was pretty wild. How there's like an oil fire somewhere. And
Jim Sedow or Sidow, however you say his name, man, that dude, such a great actor.
mm-hmm.
The way he goes from friendly to just psychopathic was always like, to me, it was like just going to class with a master actor of how to within the movie change the character just like that.
Yeah. One actually just watched recently because it was Halloween. Went back and watched the two early 90s Addams Family films. And the acting choices in that, just everything about it. But I don't want to, we can even do a podcast about that because it's fantastic. But yeah, you only have the armadillo right there. Yeah.
Yeah, me and you need to get together and
yes, we should
do Last Starfighter for one of these.
Oh yeah, I would try not to pause it to mess everyone up because I could just talk about that for hours. Yeah, I don't know that much about the behind the scenes, but the actual movie I just enjoy so much. This too, with like the college kids are all friends, like you get to know the relations, but yeah, it just Franklin is such a like you don't like him, but you feel bad for him, right?
Yeah, if you read Chainsaw Confidential, Gunnar Hansen's book about it.
Yes.
The actor that played Franklin, I can't remember his name.
He got so into character, didn't he? Yeah.
He got so into character that he meant to be just this whiny asshole for the whole time.
I think it's in the 40th anniversary special features. It might be in the other ones too. But he was telling a story how he would basically be in the wheelchair, and it was a Gunner or I can't remember what it was, but he's like, it's like, oh yeah, can you get me some water? He's like, you can walk, you asshole, right? So.
But he was so scared. Here comes the Black Mariah.
Yeah.
He was so scared that he was not going to get cast in that part. That's why he stayed entirely in character all the time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when we film our stuff too. You see a shot like this too, because he did that fall, right? And has anyone fallen in grass? It hurts. So, like, I'm totally expected to maybe get like several scratches and maybe a few scars in this film too. It just hopefully not from the chainsaw. So,
you know, what's sad? I can still remember my mother and different people dressing like that back in the day.
I can just you can just smell the polyester. You can just smell the polyester. Yeah.
It's like the really messed up Scooby Gang.
Yep. And I love how the actor's name or the character's name, but the guy driving, how he looks like how he's like supposed to be like early 20s, but he looks like he's like 55. So like a lot of time in the sun kind of thing, right?
It's Marilyn Burns. Died way too young, man. Way too young. Oh, was she like in her early 60s when she passed?
Yeah, a lot of them, it was like cancer or something, because Gunner was really not that old either.
And he was such a soft-spoken, nice dude, man.
And he never really wanted to be an actor either. It's like he wanted to be a writer, but he liked performing, but it wasn't what he wanted to do, which is pretty wild show. And I love how because the story's telling, like the movie's telling the story about this group of college kids going out on like a road trip, but mainly you find it because she thinks her grandfather's grave has been dug up, and they encounter the Sawyers. So you can take any kind of road trip movie and throw the Sawyers in there, but you have to make that one decision. You're like, oh, really? You guys are going up there, eh? So.
But you know what I always found fascinating was how the cook, Jim Sedow's character, he always when they first encounter him, he tries to talk them out of going there. So he pre-warns them, like, don't go messing around. And
later on, he's also reluctant too. Like he's just kind of going with it, but he's not like it's the way it is. But it's not like he's like bloodthirsty about it, right? So yeah, he does try to stop him. So, oh jeez.
Yeah, I grew up in North Carolina around farms like that. Man, I always hated them where they would keep cows just caged up in those individual cages. And here's the bad thing, guys, is a lot of times those cows are turned into your hamburger and or the milk that you drink, and they are really gross looking because they are not taken care of. I'm not trying to deter anybody from eating meat and
You tried to think about it, yeah.
I've seen pretty nasty stuff.
There wasn't a slaughter yard, but there was a cattle yard. We used to have a lot of rail through our area, and there was a cattle yard like that in the north end of Kelowna, so about an hour and a half from me. But driving by there, yeah. Well, I
ain't gonna lie, I always hated Franklin too.
Yeah. Well, he plays the character. I used to work with a guy named Franklin too, right? And it took so much, and he'd never seen this film, and it took so much in me not to go basically like doing like, "Hey Franklin" kind of thing, right? So I'm like, behave yourself, you know. And the hitchhiker,
Mr. Ed Neal.
Yeah.
Steve and me both have tried reaching out to him to get him. Steve tried to get him on his YouTube show. I've tried to get him on a podcast, but here's the thing, guys. He is a very private and reclusive individual.
He was talking in a couple of interviews. He does, I think he's semi-retired now, but he does do like voiceover work. But he does suffer from a form of schizophrenia. But he says he's very high functioning. He says basically he gets up in the morning, he listens to the voices, and he goes and has fun. So, but yeah, he hasn't done much, but the stuff he has done is really good. Like, you know, and he's kind of unhinged, but he becomes completely off the hinge by the time the scene's over. So
I've always said, out of all the characters, Leatherface, of course he's the icon of the film, but I have always said Nubbins was clearly the most psychotic out of the entire family.
Well, he gets scalded for doing what he did, like because basically they don't want attention, like they just want to live their life, do their harvest, right? But they're like, damn it, we're gonna get found out, right? So
he's got a childlike mentality about him.
Yeah. And it's brilliant because it's like you see performances like this. You have the script, but then you get some direction from either the writer or the director, or whatever. But it's really the performer that does it, and it's a lot of fun. For myself, when I'm able to create a character, and really have fun with it, because like you even look at Benedict Cumberbatch when he played Sherlock, there's a Lost pilot episode. He plays the character completely different. Like he's more emotional, but being able to create a wild character,
I've not seen No Country for Old Men. I keep meaning to watch it. So I can't honestly answer that, Johnny. But
Javier Bardem, I've not seen myself, but he is his character Inspector for the James Bond film. That introduction is crazy, and he's one of those guys where like, here, just read the phone book. He's cutting into his hand.
See, I've always wondered about this scene. Did they fake? Well, I guess they had to have fake cut,
Yeah,
but because they did do an actual cut on Marilyn Burns' fingertip.
That the cut on the fingertip, and also in the dinner scene, she does get clipped by the hammer, and that was more or less real, because she actually was gushing, but they got so into it. But there's again, hopefully you guys have seen this, but at the end when she's in the back of the truck, because it was one of the last scenes they filmed, she's sitting in the truck doing this manic laughter of like I beat you, I got away kind of thing. But it was also like, thank God this movie is over. Right?
So guys, the picture that I've got up, if you go to my Instagram and donate to the Susan G. Komen Foundation, top donator will win a signed photo from Mr. Ed Neal that you see right here in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And on it, it says, "I've got a knife. It's a good knife." And then it says Ed Neal, the hitchhiker at the bottom.
There's something really fantastic about this film, or like this scene in particular, is everyone but the driver is looking at him.
Yep.
And there's very little dialogue. They have ample time to stop and kick this guy out of the truck.
But they're in such shock.
Yeah. And the driver seems to be almost oblivious. Like they have ample time to say, okay, we're good, out right now.
Like Franklin right there, just look at his face. He's just entranced by just how primal and carnal this guy is. I mean, he just cut himself down to the bone, basically. He's just bleeding all over their van, and now he's taking pictures.
Yeah. A neat thing about the suits, because of the camera exposure, you know they're moving, but you can't see out the windows, because also you can see some movement of like telephone poles, but you're like, but it's like, where are they? Like they're in a void right now too, right? So didn't turn out too good. Pay me or I'll cut you. Pay me or I'll cut you. Yeah.
You better get that mama's little helper.
And you're like, what was it like? Again, was this written, or they just kind of let him do his thing, right? Like black powder, and he happened to have a wadded up thing of foil. Yeah, this scene, like again, like did the other actors know what he was going to do, right? And then he goes up to Franklin. Oh gosh.
God only knows where that razor had been either.
Yep. It's like, it looks so clean.
I've always wondered about this symbol.
Actually, Michelle just popped up too. Oh, the symbol? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this Michelle just brought up she could see James Franco. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, if he didn't get in all that trouble for all the stuff that he's been
another one. He is actually a very good, talented actor. Like he can do comedy, drama, and all stuff. But yeah, he's art not like the art and art and the artist. Yeah, so
yeah, he's been kind of blacklisted in Hollywood for right now. Supposedly, he's like a very abusive person towards fellow castmates and people that are that work with him.
well, you hear the stuff about like Bill Murray too, right? And you're like, well, he was always kind of prickly, but he can be almost abusive. But Chevy Chase one, yeah, that one too. It's like you hear stories of how he would just like, it's like, pleasure to meet you, and he smacks someone backstage. He's like, I just met you. Like it wasn't like a little like friendly tap. It was a full on smack. Like I want to knock you out tonight. I could just American astrology.
Well, the thing is Bill Murray is kind of notoriously, it's been out there for years, if not decades, that he's kind of an asshole to deal
Yep.
with.
Yeah. There's that story where he showed up at a house party one time. He came in, did the dishes, had a couple drinks, and he leaned over to the guy hosting the party and says, no one's going to believe you. So he just walked out the door. I'm like, that's pretty wild. Or there's the other one where he showed up at a bachelor party, and he ended up like taking everyone out. So yeah, it's just Burt Reynolds, yeah, but also a really brilliant actor too. He had some fantastic roles.
They said
But,
the
you
only
know-
movie that he didn't really act a fool on was the Smokey and the Bandit movies, but I guess that's because you had a legend when Jackie Gleason on set.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not necessarily going to show your ass to Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys look on screen here at the sign that's hanging over this barbecue joint, We Slaughter Barbecue.
I've never noticed that before. I like that. That's a little touch.
That is supposedly what the family was referred to as W.E. Slaughter.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that. Steve told me about that.
So Sawyer, right there.
Sawyer came up
Yeah.
in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah. You know, it's
There
like
he is.
it's almost like an anagram. Yeah, because
That actual barbecue joint still exists.
yes.
They sell a lot of signed merchandise and stuff out of there. A
Yeah.
lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff.
I can't remember how far it is from Austin, but if we have a chance, we're gonna go do a photo op because they won't let us film there, or anyone film there really. I get it. Also, it's probably pretty modern now too, but
Well, I get out that
Yeah.
way. I'm gonna put you and Steve in the car, and we're gonna go there.
hey, right on. Yeah. Michael Vincent too. He's playing Rex in our movie. He is a big foodie down Texas, and I said, Michael, take us for dinner one night. I don't care how much it costs. We'll just go, right? Yeah.
He's an imposing figure too.
I am actually. He is a big guy. I've seen a lot of his performances. I'm really looking forward to working with him. And when he got cast, I hadn't read the script yet. This is over a year ago, and I hadn't read the script yet, and I was confused of which character he was playing. And then I read the script, and because I wanted to go to Steve, I said, "Did you recast me?" So because he's a big guy too, right? But he's only about 6'1", 6'2". I'm 6'5", 6'6". So, and the rest of the cast, they're all like 5'10". I think Nika is about 5'2". Alicia 5.5 feet. So on screen, I'm going to be, and I'm also 2-3 times the size in weight with a lot of the actors too. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
His daughter's in the movie with you all too, correct?
Yep. Yeah. She's got a little thing there too. I can't go into that. So
I tell you what, though, Nika has got a set of lungs on her.
Yep.
Good Lord, that girl can scream.
She actually has a she has a musical theater and opera background.
No wonder.
Oh yeah, and she weighs maybe $110 soaking wet, mostly hair. She is an awesome person. Got to meet her that first day, and it's yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And talking with Alicia and everyone else, it's just yeah, it's gonna be funny. Someone said is because everyone's basically from the South that's being cast in the film, and someone said is Leatherface gonna have a Canadian accent? I said, yep, he will. So
Yeah. Just so you go, in the mask.
I don't know. Can I? It's like there's like a pig squeal that he does, right? In this film, and I'm like, is there a Canadian pig? I don't know. So I just love how everything is just already dirty. Steve doesn't want us to shower during the production.
You're gonna have to with the COVID stuff, man.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to.
I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, my skin. I get skin allergies really bad, and I'm like, no, I can. Like I can do that, not using deodorant, because he wants like a nice visceral sensation for the performers to really get into it. But if we're gagging, so
well, see, there was a reason that Toby Hooper didn't. Those guys stayed in those clothes because he didn't have a budget for clothing and different things like that.
I know that. Yeah,
you all are not rolling in money either.
No,
but
I know I will be wearing literally the same set of clothes straight for 2 weeks. As long as I can change my socks and underwear, I'm good. That undershirt, we really want to have the basically that oily look to it, right? So it's going to be fantastic for all of our pores, but yes. But again, doing low budget theater projects, sometimes you end up wearing the same costume for production, and you might be able to get something washed. Yeah, so Febreze works, right? So. Yeah. So if I remember correctly, this where they're filming right now in like the abandoned house, because this was like the old I think this was like your grandparents' farm or something like that. Marcus, like the mark on the van there. Yeah.
I always thought that sausage in his mouth was like somebody's finger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like, dude, you're sitting there chewing on somebody's big toe or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought maybe that was like some kind of voodoo symbol of some sort.
I maybe Franklin probably looking into it as like he may be reading more into it than it actually means. But the Sawyer family, because they're a bit of an enigma. Like I know that they've tried to say the backstory and stuff like that too, but like at this point, any kind of lore hadn't existed yet. So it's one of those extra things where either it was intentional or what, but you're thinking, well, why is this family doing this, right? So is this like, does this go back to like an old voodoo thing, or is this like an old world like protection symbol, or we're marking you because we're after you? Because everyone they encounter after the hitchhiker is involved. So is it supernatural? Is it just a horrible coincidence? Yeah. So, but again, there's that whole headcanon thing where like you what you don't see is scarier, right? So,
and what I've always loved about it over Halloween, and that's why I've always said to me it was the perfect horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Was it perfectly shot? No. Was
Nope.
it perfectly acted? No. What made it perfect for me is in the real world, this could happen.
Elements.
It would be, just out there to think, but you could run into a family that are all just crazy as hell, not necessarily running around in a human skin mask, but Ed Gein, who was the big influence for this film, did do that. So
this is decades later, but there's that infamous case here in BC with the Picton farm murders, and how the guy sold meat to the community. So
Michelle Blesky says it's got that. It was some type of zodiac sign, since they were talking about horoscopes.
Oh, okay.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
because I know a lot of those old religions and stuff were all about rune symbols and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I always looked at it was some kind of like mark. He put some kind of like F mark on them,
Mhm.
or as they
This,
call it down in Louisiana, a root.
yep.
It's a voodoo curse.
This scene with Franklin basically,
Pouting and
yeah.
Franklin, give me a fine prayer.
Like
he
he's,
should have won an Academy Award, man. I
yeah.
swear.
Like he's he's irritating, but you also you feel for him at the end, right? Because you understand why he's frustrated, right?
Gunner said he hated his guts for
Yeah.
the longest time
Yeah.
until he went out to dinner with him.
Yeah, and because he got into the character. There's a handful of actors where I'll see them in a project, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that guy because they always tend to play the bad guy. But then it was years and years later, I realized, oh, I don't like that actor because I don't like them as an actor. I don't like the characters they play because they're playing assholes, basically, right? And I'm like, oh, I see what you did there, right? Yeah. Oh, I forget her name, but the actress that played Cersei Lannister in the Game of the Thrones series, she was at a convention and she signed autographs, and someone comes up and says, "I hate you." And it's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, like your character is so awful because she got so into the character. No, there's one of the bone totems. Yeah, got so into the character that she couldn't separate the actor from the character. So yeah, when you're doing a good performance, when you see that character, you instantly think of like what they made you feel, right? Or you take someone like Tom Hanks, who I absolutely love. You see Tom Hanks on the screen, but he plays all these different types of characters, but he's intriguing and he's compelling to watch. So what do you think? That little bone totem pile on the pillow? Do you think that was from the hitchhiker? Yeah,
Probably. I think
yeah.
the hitchhiker had a lot of I think he was into the occult a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's grave robbing, he's clearly making art out of cadavers,
Yep.
dead bodies. He's leaving these weird symbols on stuff.
Oh yeah, and the house is literally like a property over. Yeah.
It's funny that that original house, there's people that actually, that's a bed and breakfast in Texas now.
Yep.
Yeah, they ain't lying either, man. It gets hot in Texas, buddy. Woo, 120 degrees in summer.
Yeah, we're lucky when we're filming. It's going to be tolerable. So it's going to be like what it is like late spring here because this year was abnormally hot for us. We were hitting almost 40 degrees Celsius. Unofficially, it was well over 45 in parts of the city because of the concrete, but the air it was rough this year, and we had fires again this year too. So
now that old house that they were in, I've always had this question that they were just in.
mm-hmm.
I always wondered, was that like grandpa and grandma's mansion
Yeah.
that they had?
Well,
And then when
I
things fell apart, they
I
moved
actually
into the.
can't remember that house they were just in. I think was her grandparents' house.
Oh yeah.
But because they live so close together, and also it seems like the Sawyers have been there for a while. Did they know? Right. So there could be that tie together thing. So that
And
was
they
a tough thing.
stumble up on all the old cars from the people that they've captured.
Yeah, I know, because it's more than one, and like everything is camouflage and whatnot. Yeah. Also, with our film too, it's like we don't have a lot of vehicles in ours, but we wanted to have authentic time period cars, and we have sourced some stuff. But even like you look at the generator, you want something authentic, right? So So sometimes people say like, where did all the money go for a film? I'm like, well, a lot of it's on the screen, right, or behind the scenes stuff, and paying people to get this on the screen. So,
and then they had to go through the mafia to get distribution.
yep, that's another story too. Yeah. So.
And then Toby Hooper tried to get distribution rights back from the mafia, but you're normally not going to strong arm the mafia.
So we are over a half hour into the film, and we've encountered two interesting people, but they're at the house now. This is kind of well because you don't see many films where like the quote unquote who's really identified as like the bad guy or like any kind of like antagonist. You usually encounter them way earlier, but this it's almost 40 minutes into the film by the time you actually see them.
Here comes one of the
he just
iconic scenes.
He just walks in, the door opens up. Like, okay, let's just sit and watch this and enjoy it. I love it.
The thing I loved about this movie, there's no wasted scenes. Everything has a purpose and or meaning. Like just that little tooth, ought to just give you enough pause to like, maybe I don't want to go in here.
Like, why is there a tooth, right? And it fell down too.
I always imagine that Leatherface is back there just freaking out because he doesn't know what to do.
Possibly, yeah. It's like, did I leave the door open? You hear the squealing, yeah.
Because he's never been used to people just coming into the house.
No, it's like, hey, this is easy. And just, yeah. Oh, this is great. And just like that, eh?
Now, the interesting backstory on this scene, guys, is that Leatherface Gunnar Hansen actually slammed, I forget that actor's name, but he actually slammed him pretty freaking hard in the head with that hammer.
Wow.
And he added to that scene. Well, the first time they did it, he slammed him in the head really hard. Then the second time, not so much. But
real quick here with the tracking shot, they had the pipe rail, and they laid that down, and they didn't have a Steadicam back then. This is actually in the behind the scenes stuff too. But when they showed this, other filmmakers are looking over at the cameraman. They're like, "How on earth did you get that shot?" Like because it tracks all the way through. And just with Leatherface just slamming that door, because the scene you're like, oh, if you were coming to this film not realizing what it was about, you're like, what just happened, right? And it's just over like that. And then she comes in and she has no idea what's going on. But yeah, that's something that worries me is I accidentally clip somebody with something. But there's ways to shoot it and angles and whatnot. It's just, I just know we're going to get pretty cut up and bruised, unfortunately. So,
but going back to that scene, the whole the thing where he's twitching, the death twitch.
Yep.
That actor improvised that because he just thought it was really stupid to just be laying there.
Yep.
In the floor dead. So he was like, how about I just add this whole twitching thing, which you would do if you got a massive head injury because your brain would be going all wacky.
They if I remember correctly, they mentioned it earlier on about the slaughterhouses, how if you miss, they don't die right away. So it's almost like the Chekhov's gun. Like there's all the bones and everything in this living room. The story of the guy that literally searched for weeks to find, hopefully not the actual human skeleton, but to find just feathers and dead animals and whatnot. Interestingly enough, when we filmed the proof of concept teaser thing back in 2019, which is the original one, when we were filming, we found this old farmhouse to do the exterior shots, and but it was on a corn farm. And while we're filming, a semi pulls up and is dumping off a load of fertilizer, but it's all like rendered animals. So everything had been like cremated, like it turns into a mulching mix in the soil. But as we were saying there, just little things of feathers and bone is just flying through the air. And it's like this horrible snow, and the smell was in my car for weeks after that. Because I had left my back hatch open, because that's where I got changed. And I left my back hatch open, and I get my car, and there's just this layer of rendered animal dust everywhere.
There you are.
Jeez. There we go.
Johnny Tardis says they treated Leatherface like Sloth from the Goonies, and I hated it. It's just a sloth that will chop you up with a chainsaw. I read the actress talk about this part. They had to make this rig for her to be on the meat hook.
Yes, yeah.
And
because right here, he picks her up, right?
Yep.
And he puts her on the hook, but you don't actually see it, but you see it, don't you? Right?
Yep.
Yeah. You're like, oh God, the hook went in. I'm like, well, it didn't really. When we did the original one, we had to fake it too. The actress that I put someone up on a hook, and we faked it. We gave her basically a brick to stand. Like right now she's hanging, but we gave her a brick to stand on, and she kind of like did like a tippy toe thing and made it look like the hook was in there. One take, and she had the scream down. It was awesome. Oh, the chainsaw. And the fact you don't see it, but oh yeah.
Well, they said that she had this rig that went up in her crotch area. It was a wire rig that Toby Hooper and them had made, and her literal expressions of pain on her face were authentic because it was just cutting up into her crotch. So you can imagine your
basically
weight.
Yeah, like basically wearing a dance belt, getting a major wedgie, right? Yeah. And people don't know.
That's something else. People have always thought this movie was like this gore fest, and it's not. It gives you that. I think it just does like the subliminal illusion that it makes you think it is.
Mm-hmm. No, like Freddy and Jason films are way more gory than this, right? So yeah.
Michelle says, "Oof, yeah, her poor crotch got just messed up in that scene."
It's like if people are not sure what a dance belt is, if you ever seen a jock strap, that's basically what it is. Yeah. Poor girl.
Yeah, except this one was a homemade one that the director and the set designer made.
Probably leather or something like that. Yeah.
The same guy that was the set designer for this movie actually did Tourist Trap later on too.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So if you watch Tourist Trap and you're inside that wax museum, there's a lot of, it's just got that vibe of the Sawyer house.
Yeah.
It really does inside.
Okay, good to it. Oh, yeah, they're like, oh, the two ran off in the forest, in the fields, so sure things are fine.
No, they're getting ready to be hamburgers.
See, this is why I don't like getting out of cell range anywhere. So we were out visiting a campsite just outside of town here, but it's in a cell and radio dead zone. Mm-hmm. And unless you're nearby, you can't even really like use a CB because of the way the mounds are shaped. And someone we were camping with, she went for a walk down the road, but she didn't tell anybody. So we were trying to find her, and I look at my watch and I'm thinking, okay, it's about a 10-minute drive, 10-15-minute drive down the road. I want to mark the time when this person potentially went missing. So
I wish I could find one of those old vans. I'd paint it like the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo.
Actually, a friend of mine here in town, someone I went to school with, he and his family opened up a used toy shop years and years ago. and it was an old, I think it was an old Ford, and they painted it as the Mystery Machine, but it said Mystery Toy Shop on the side because that
That's
was the name of
cool.
their shop. Yeah, and they were big Scooby-Doo fans. Yeah, yeah. This is like the exact opposite of the Scooby Gang right now. And I'm sure that mashup is somewhere where somebody's done the Scooby Gang with like the Sawyer family, right? It's like would have gotten away with it too. Or for you darn kids.
If not, they need
Yeah,
to. Somebody
yeah,
needs
yeah.
to
I'm sure it's out there. It's gotta be out there.
have GMC the hell going. And I would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for you and them nosy kids.
Johnny just said I would paint it like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles van. I love that. That's really good.
Party wagon.
Yep. He's coming up to the house now. Oh, and he finds the coat, or the blanket, yeah.
I bet Leatherface is just like, man, this has been the easiest week ever. I just got people running up to the house.
This is great, yeah. This is great. Well, the guy at the gas station, I always refer to him as Dad because basically it's the family. I consider the hitchhiker to be like one of the brothers because we do meet Grandpa, and I think he's Dad, or there could be an uncle cousin brother situation going on in there.
So Boom Studios did sorry to cut you off, but I was going to say Boom Studios did a comic series, probably a decade or so ago. And they tried their damnedest to explain the Sawyer family's lineage and everything, and how Leatherface became how he was, and he was deformed and all this, and I guess he got bullied in school and everything, but the family bloodline never went outside the family.
It was gene pool, or sorry, like the family tree was a stick. Yeah. So.
Like I always reference because I love the show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The McPoyles, the McPoyle bloodline has been pure for 1,000 years.
Well, gosh. Oh.
Yeah, this is where he's like really stressed out.
Mm-hmm. Well, like one at a time kind of thing, right? But yeah.
Said what does he say? I had the toy as a kid, and I swear the party wagon and the Batmobile from Batman '89 were my favorite.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Flash film? Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman, but the DC's doing their own multiverse thing too. It's a slight teaser in there, yeah.
That Flashpoint Paradox storyline that they did.
And interestingly enough, the Batcave that they're in looks, here's the scene, or one of them, because he is panicking right now. Unfortunately, we don't have a dental appliance yet, so I don't know if we can really emulate this scene. But he has. So
he
right
said
there,
those fake teeth were painful.
Yeah.
To wear.
So that scene right there, again, without spoiling anything, that right there, I really hope you guys will see it when you finally see our film. That scene right there ties into our script. But again, that's all I can say. But I use that moment right there as a big motivation for a plot point. So yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and hopefully Steve doesn't get mad at me. But that's about as far as I ever get into that. So, but yeah,
I always viewed it as he was just sitting there going, like he was almost questioning something. I don't know. Maybe I just interpreted it a little bit different. Like he was just like, of course he's got a childlike mentality, and he just acts off of emotion, not actual logical thinking.
I think the biggest thing, at least in like the original, is it's almost like they don't necessarily do like a yearly harvest or whatever, or like a yearly slaughter. But I think it's because he was caught so off guard, and he's like, because they don't want to be found out, obviously, because if they get found out, he's going to end up in like an institution. The other people are going to end up in jail. He's going to be away from his family, and I think that terrifies him more than anything. So, because the outside is the bad stuff, right? Yeah. So, but again, it's like just perspective, right? So.
And also, too, could you really even institutionalize him?
Padded room, like because there's that whole mentally incompetent thing. Like, well, although this is Texas, who knows, right? So, but
Well, what I'm saying is you could never reintroduce him into society. That would never work.
No. But I blame the probable lack of genetic diversity, and also the way he was brought up. But like, it's not just one thing that makes Leatherface. It's that nature versus nurture. I think it's a big combination between both. So. Reminds me of Sissy Spacek in Carrie, in that scene with the being lit from underneath, which I just rewatched, and it's still a really good film. We were trying to do a bunch of classic horror movies leading up to Halloween, my wife and I. Also, Franklin, him having to do, well, he pushed himself in the chair. Now, if you were a person that was in a chair and disabled, you're used to it. But he's an actor. He's an able-bodied actor, and he has to push himself through. Like, yeah, it's like you have to really dig into it. I had to do a dance scene in a wheelchair one time when I did Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was playing Dr. Scott, and I had to do a dance scene in a wheelchair. My arms were killing me at the end of the production. Oh, the rehearsal was horrible. So.
So another trivia question for you guys to think about as we're watching this for the second Blu-ray I have here. How did Tobe Hooper come up with the idea for this movie? It's a very interesting story.
Huh.
Most people would say it was the inspiration of Ed Gein and all that, which is partly true, but there's another inspiration, one that's a little bit more obscure.
Johnny just said nightmare.
No, not nightmare.
Well, it would be a nightmare. So
yeah.
There he is. Oh.
This one might be the most blood that you would see in the whole movie.
Yep. Oh.
Nope. It has to do with Christmas and what he was doing at Christmas that gave him the idea for this movie.
See, this scene here too, when she's running through the bushes.
Yeah, she got cut up like
they
really
hadn't
bad.
cleared anything, and Gunnar couldn't see anything, and I don't know if he had a chain on his chainsaw at this point, but he's having to run in the dark going through, and I just know. Oh,
Michelle's saying that she
So
possibly knows the answer. So
throw it. It's like, I don't know, throw a clue out there or something. Nothing too obvious. So yeah.
So I'm going to give you another clue. He was Christmas shopping, but it was in a particular store. And
Chainsaw store. No. Oh, another thing too is talking about like Christmas on certain movies. I posted this a little while ago, but if anyone ever comes up to me again and says Gremlins is my favorite Halloween film, I'm gonna look at it and say it is a Christmas film. It takes place at Christmas, like
you
Die
don't
Hard.
remember him sitting there singing Christmas carols?
It's like Die Hard is a Christmas film. So yeah.
I always thought to myself, I was like, how stupid can you be? You ran to the house that he was taking you to anyway.
So the movie can happen, yes. Oh. It's like, oh, there's light. There'll be sanctuary and help. Is it deterring him? No. Or my wife and I have a saying, like, not necessarily anything scary. We'll turn to each other and say, we've seen that film. So
Tell me if I'm John.
Batman Returns, yes, it is a Christmas film. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Johnny.
Gremlins is a Christmas film along with Batman Returns.
Yep. Highly agree with that, yeah.
So did you send me the answer on Instagram, Michelle?
There's Grandpa.
You were right, but I know you don't want to win the second copy.
So they're upstairs.
Do you want to just win the second copy and give it to somebody?
Haha. So she ran upstairs. She found Grandpa, but he's asleep or catatonic. She turns around. You see what you assume is what's left of Grandma. Now,
so the answer to the trivia question, he was in a hardware store in the early 70s, Christmas shopping, and there were so many people inside the store that he just happened to look over and see the chainsaw section and then just put everything together, and that's how he came up with the film.
I'm sure we've all had that thought.
So I'll let you pick somebody in the chat.
Oh, wow. She's still... Like, it's scary, but it's almost comical, but at the same time, it's just like, he's just not stopping because he knows if he does, he's in trouble, right? but he's in trouble from his family. He could be taken away from his family. Yeah, so... Yeah, like they figured that Grandpa was supposed to be like 100 or 102 or something like that about this time the movie came out. Like he was like a Civil War veteran, basically. Yeah, I know, eh? Yeah. Oh.
Here's what I always wondered, though. He had so many opportunities to kill her.
Yep.
But didn't. Did he have almost like a maybe kind of a weird crush on her, maybe?
I have a little bit of an insight to that, but I can't.
Because it was almost like they wanted to keep her alive to almost like incorporate her into the family or something.
Oh, geez.
So Michelle was being nice, and whoever doesn't have a copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you want it, let her know, and she will let me know.
Right on. She's back at the gas station.
Damn, she didn't do some running.
Yeah. She
I
thinks
always
like,
wondered what he
oh,
was smoking back there in that smoke pit,
yep, yeah.
like a big torso or something.
Comes in and she is panicking, but she thinks, oh, person I've seen before, maybe I can get away from this person and get help. See, long before I had seen this movie, I always knew that something was up at the gas station, but I didn't realize that the hitchhiker was involved too. And then it was afterwards, I'm like, oh, he was the one taking the photos. Because when you first see it, you hear the report, and you think, oh, it's the cops taking photos of the crime scene. No, it's him, basically for his a macabre photo album.
He's clearly in shock.
Yeah, he's surprised because it's like, not that he messed up, but it's like, oh crap, those kids are going up there and we're not ready for our harvest, basically, right? And right here, it's just like, now they're pulling in, and she's unblinking, looking out the door.
Yep.
Looks over at the barbecue. And the way
Clearly
that it's,
don't look like pig.
yeah, and the way that it's lit, it's kind of ambiguous.
It's funny how he probably went out there and talked to Leatherface. He's like, hey, boy, you need to go home.
Yeah.
I'll bring her over in a minute.
It's like, okay, chill. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen this film too. It's nice to really sit down and really look at it. Yeah. And I love how, because there's no music in this film, eh? It's all ambient sound or a half-heard radio broadcast or something.
So nobody doesn't want to donate to the Susan G. Komen and win a signed Ed Neal photo? I always thought this part was funny. He's just like playing with it.
And I don't know how many cameras they had on set, but with coverage, because they're having to go back and forth, they have to do the scene multiple times, right? And we have a couple combat scenes basically in our movie, and it's going to be interesting to shoot because with coverage and just different perspectives and whatnot, and maybe even just different alternate takes. It's going to be quite interesting to do. So I can see definitely, I don't know, maybe several days just to do that handful of scenes, just to block everything out and make sure everyone's safe. But I definitely, in the script, there is a serious brutality with Leatherface. I forget which video game it is though, but it's a downloadable character you can do. And the way that they animate him, he's just so efficient. And I use that. I'm like, oh, okay, I see it. No, there's certain things that short of going out there with like a meat cleaver, like until we get on the set, it's going to be really put everything together. It's going to be a lot of fun to do.
MKX. Shell, if I didn't have to donate to my furnace. Yeah, I know you've had a run of it with that furnace.
Oh, dear.
And it's getting winter in New York. I'm pretty sure it gets a little chill.
Yeah. Oh, the East Coast, yeah. We're quite lucky where I live. We don't really get snow until like January, February, but it's we had a combination between that cyclone that hit the West Coast it stayed in the interior, so it's been foggy, rainy all week, and like nothing's been dry.
Yeah, I was actually blown away that you all are especially close to Vancouver. It's like a surfing destination. You'll get a bunch of surfers and stuff around.
We're actually the northern end of a desert that actually stretches all the way down on along the Rockies, all the way down to Northern California. So if anyone's ever been to like Napa Valley and stuff like that, we're very similar because we're the third largest grape producer in the area. Uh, it's like Napa Valley, Niagara Peninsula over in Ontario, and then us. And we have so many wineries around here. I love how he's just in the truck. He's just poking her the whole time. Just like, yeah. Just giggling the whole way. because in the movie it's implied that he's not really the guy that does the killing, like it's mainly Leatherface, and now he's gonna berate his. See, at this point you're not totally sure if if it's an older younger brother, if it's like an uncle nephew kind of relationship, but again I think the family tree is a stick, right? So yeah.
It's basically a branch that doesn't have nothing on it.
Or the gene pool's as deep as a puddle.
You ever notice the cook has this thing? It seems like he gets off on inflicting pain on.
Yes, he definitely has like the sadist or masochist kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, because he's sitting there the whole time, basically giggling and like hitting her with the broom handle. Looks like, yeah. Well, you hear biographies. Oh, they filmed that. Apparently, what they did is they reversed that shot with like the headlights coming towards them. They actually had to reverse that shot because they couldn't get him to stop properly. You hear stories of serial killers when they were kids. They were beaten by their caregivers, and then they'll admit that they got basically sexual pleasure out of it, and it's like, oh gosh. Cut to, I think every fetish is usually is found out by mistake. You're like, well, I guess I'm into that, right? Yeah. So
we had snow, and I was on I went to the doctor on Wednesday. Dang, y'all got snow early. And then she says Syracuse is either top of or in the top of the snow producers in New York in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think you would get snow this early.
I think there's both coasts got hit by cyclones, so there was bad weather on both coasts last month. And she's putting it together because she sees the hitchhiker now, and she's like, "Oh, what is going on?"
I love how he has the mask. You got like the old grandma mask, and then you got the pretty girl.
I have a theory because he also changes his, or does he? Because he changes his apron, right? Also, there's a cut scene where he goes in, and it's either this mask or another mask where he actually powders. So whatever mask he puts on, he takes on that persona. Because the dinner scene, Grandpa's there. We know Grandma, what's left of her, is upstairs. You see Dad, Hitchhiker, and Leatherface. And somebody says, "Oh, where's Mom?" I said, "Well, Leatherface is wearing Mom." So, because he has the homemaker kind of persona going on.
And it's funny that when he goes up to her, he's like almost like nurturing.
Yep.
At one point.
Yeah, like whatever mask, like that becomes his identity or his role at that moment.
It's kind of like when Rob Zombie's original Halloween, his first Halloween movie he did, how Michael always had different masks.
Oh,
Because remember, in the insane asylum, he was constantly making masks.
That's actually one series I haven't watched. I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, don't watch the second
yeah.
Rob Zombie one. The first one's fine; it's tolerable. That second one's garbage. Don't watch that one unless you want to, just be tortured.
Oh, I'm a completist, so it really bugs me when there was several television series back in the early 2000s.
This part always makes me laugh. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know it makes me sound like I'm just a psychopath, but when they wheel Dugan out, he's just like,
yeah. Yeah, he was like 20 or 21 when he filmed this.
He said that makeup was terrible from the interviews I've watched.
It's I will admit it's not good. It's not good. But the idea, because you thought this person was dead, right? Yeah, and they're just wheeling this fragile, like his bones are dust at this point, right? So
he even said, I think some of that makeup was toxic back then.
Possibly, yeah. Like the lead white, yeah. It's like
I like that lamp, the skeleton
lamp. Yeah.
And the way that they designed this house was basically, you got to imagine in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
It was either 54 or 55 when the cops finally caught on to Ed Gein.
Yep.
And when they went into his house, that is what it looked like to the police officers when they went in there.
There's some amazing. I follow one guy on YouTube. His name is Simon Whistler. He's got a whole bunch of different channels, but he does one with casual criminalist. Today I found out he's got like 12 different channels, but this one, and I think it was also one called Weird History. Yeah, apparently the cut on the finger potentially was real. Which is right? Yeah, because he ends up sucking the finger. Huh. Oh gosh, like at this point too, because he's reverting back because he's suckling on her hand, and it's so disturbing because you see this person that shouldn't be alive get joy out of something that is so awful, right? Yeah,
it's almost like a half decayed vampire that you finally give some blood to.
Well, like he revitalizes them, right? So.
This part, the way they pan back when she wakes up, I always thought was so beautiful. Right here, and then it just pans back real quick. No, was that? No, I'm thinking of it. There is a scene where they do that, right?
It's coming up, yeah.
Yep, right here. And then they start mocking her.
Yeah, because there we go.
And the water in that cup definitely doesn't look sanitary.
No. And the fact that the scene of the family looking back. The hitchhiker's into it. Leatherface is howling. And when they call him Dad, he's like, because he's not wholly into it, which is interesting.
He's still not lost his humanity quite yet.
Yeah.
How many hours did that? I heard it was like over 70 hours that they tried to film this.
Yep. Because I think they only had like one or two cameras, but with setups, they had to keep redoing the scenes, obviously. Wow. Because like right now, even though Leatherface is in a suit and tie, he's wearing mom. But that's my theory, at least, right? And her voice, apparently her throat was ruined after the shoot. She was in so much pain.
She said that this took a toll on her mentally
Mhm.
too.
We filmed a lot of stuff for that original teaser back in 2019. A lot of it could have been edited together to like maybe a 5 or 8 minute film. We filmed a lot of stuff with Nika around a table to emulate this scene. Her and I think it was, I'm sorry, I can't remember the gentleman's name now, but they were supposed to be tied up at a dinner table. We didn't actually tie them up, but Nika was holding her hands behind her back, and she got so into it, and she just fantastic performer. I'm so looking forward to working with her again. When we were wrapping, she says, "Can someone untie me?" And we're like, "Nika, you're holding onto your own hand." She's like, "Oh my gosh!" So, but no,
Even like him, he wants to laugh and go all maniacal, but at the same time he's holding back.
Yeah, like
he's fully accepted it. He's gone.
Yeah, he's just all up and down. Yeah.
Marilyn Burns had the greenest eyes I think I've ever seen.
Yep. No.
And that's coming from a guy that has green eyes myself.
Crazy. Yeah, because they're emerald, aren't they? Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
See, I'm surprised she didn't like go into cardiac arrest from the shock.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like in a real world situation, a person just having to see this, it would clearly kill them. That's the shock of it. Johnny Tardis said, "I feel like I could see Adam Driver as
Adam
the
Driver."
hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he does look like Ed Neal.
He is a very, very talented actor too, and he's versatile too. Like because he can do comedy, he can do drama. Yeah. Side note: there should have been one more Star Wars film, but that's a completely different tangent. But Adam Driver was a really good addition to that film.
I could even see Adam Driver playing the part of the cook.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he would definitely, with that long hair, would fit Nubbins to a T. Trying to get Grandpa to go smash.
He was always the best. Yeah.
I love the shots, how to get close up on her eyeball like that.
Yep. There's that old like pole focus thing where you zoom in, but you pull the camera back, so it looks like everything's kind of like pulling back from each other. I remember when I figured that out back in the day with my old like Sony cam. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. But now it's like a button on your phone, right? So. Oh.
They said that chicken carcass on that table stunk so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that they had an animal wrangler on a female animal wrangler on the crew, and they tried to have her go and inject formaldehyde into it, and she accidentally ended up injecting herself with it.
Oh wow!
So she went to stab, and it went because I guess she had it in her lap.
Oh
and
my!
She went to stab it, and it went through and went into her leg.
I've never heard that story. I wonder if Rob Zombie took inspiration from House of Thousand Corpses. I think so.
Yeah, he definitely loves this type of horror.
And another thing too is like Rob Zombie is not one of those people that is a nice guy in real life, apparently. So
yeah, like I said, I'm gonna get you that episode of the Joe Rogan where he was on there.
Oh yeah.
He worked on Pee Wee's Playhouse as a production designer.
Yep. Oh god. So the scene with the hammer, I think you're a little bit ahead of me here, but because he couldn't see, it was either when he dropped the hammer into the pail or it was the first hit, he couldn't see her. So he did clip her. So she was bleeding from the temple, right? So I don't know if it's that one right there. There we go. That first hit apparently was It wasn't full on, but he did clip her. But where like you see the wounds isn't where he actually cut her in real life. But yeah, so because he was just being puppeteered at this point, so yeah, the cook definitely gets some pleasure. Doesn't get some. He gets total pleasure out of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's real blood too.
Yeah.
Even the cuts on her arms and everything was from running through the bushes.
Yep.
She is so messed up.
See, if it wasn't for the sequels and whatnot, when she gets away, because Leatherface has one more go, right? And the other guys are just probably like laughing or whatever. But he tried. Oh no, right? I had forgot. Oh my gosh, I had forgotten the freaking end of this film. So.
And people don't I don't know if people have ever realized Nubbins is just slicing her back with that straight razor. I mean, you'd literally watch him just slicing at her right here.
Jeez.
Yeah, he didn't make it. And that look on her face. Boy didn't take all day to get back in that truck. Like, fuck this. I'm out.
Peace out. Peace out, yeah. This is what happens when you try to be a good Samaritan, right?
Here you go, Scotty. Right here.
Right on.
This is one of those Japanese female characters that they made look like Leatherface.
That's disturbing. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh, this poor guy. When he clips himself with the on the thigh, yeah, there's a little bit of splatter, but I remember that being so much more gory when I was a kid. But it still would hurt like hell, right?
Yeah, the guy in the pickup truck was like, screw the truck driver, I'm getting a pretty bleeding girl.
Yep. See, again, if it wasn't for the sequel, like you think about it, you're like, when she's driving away, the guy keeps looking back. In my mind, did he turn around and go back to the house? Like he was out selling all the meat at like the market, so he's just kind of like messing with her now. Here we go.
And they said right here that actual maniacal scream and laugh was actually real because Marilyn Burns was finally like, this shit is over.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this no more.
This sunset scene. Oh.
And that right there, folks, is what I consider to be the greatest horror movie ever made.
Right on. Perfect. Right on.
Because it just doesn't let up from beginning to end. It eases you in for about the first 20 minutes, and then it just goes full on balls to the wall.
No, again, when you find out that basically everyone they encounter after the cemetery is all related, literally. And the look when the hood's pulled off and she sees the hitchhiker Nubbins and she's like, oh no, like just this look of oh no, and like Marilyn's acting and reactions in this too is just yeah, it's fantastic. No, I love how this movie was very low budget, right? It was a bunch of college kids like, hey, you want to be in a movie? Sure. And we are also kind of a thing like, hey, you want to be in a movie? Yeah, but let's make like a great movie. So yeah, we want to, and we are going to make a great movie, and we have a good script in place. We got a great cast in place. It's just a factor of time right now, and hopefully either before or by Halloween next year, you guys will see this film because it's being made no matter what.
Johnny says it's a lot less gory than the remakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you that you don't need a bucket of blood to make a scary movie.
Mm-hmm. It's more of being like implied by, because again, you don't actually see the hook go on her shoulder. But there is a little bit of splatter behind her. But it cuts as soon as she's put on the hook. And again, like you didn't see it, but you're in your brain, you saw it, right? It's like think of it afterwards thing. So yeah, this is real. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
I think the next time you come back on, I think we're going to watch Last Starfighter.
You got it.
That's one of mine and Scotty's favorite movies.
God, I enjoy that movie so much. I'm going to do some more research on that one. They have talked about it every once in a while. Like it'll pop up online saying that they want to do a remake, but the majority of the actors, the ones that are still alive, are totally up for it. The writer is up for it, but there's something to do with the distribution or the rights behind it is what's really tying it up, because there's been script synopses that have been released, and basically it's Alex is still out there fighting as like a next generation kind of thing, right? But they're all up for it, which I think would be great. But if they had to, although he is getting up there, the actor that played Centauri, that actor, I can't remember his name now, but he has passed away. John Noble, who was in Fringe and the Lord of the Rings movies and stuff like that, I always thought that he would be a good actor to be recast in that role, because the character can regenerate himself almost. So, but John Noble's getting up there now too. The last thing I saw him in was the last Conjuring film, and he's got to be in his late 70s now. So, but yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, and the actor that played Alex, he was in Halloween too.
Yeah.
He was the one that slipped in the blood and knocked himself silly.
I subscribed to Shudder, and I can't remember what show it was, but basically it was like, I may be wrong now, but I was watching a show, and it was like a super cut of hilarious deaths, but not like where like you'd be running and you and like somebody, you're like, well, you're shit out of luck, right? Like slipping the blood. We were doing another play, and there's a scene. It was actually the musical version of Tommy. And if anyone's ever seen the original movie, the premise is this kid, his dad goes off to war. He doesn't come home, and his mom gets remarried. But what happens is the dad survives. He makes it home. But in the movie version, the new husband lover kills the original dad, and that was the traumatizing moment of Tommy becoming like deaf, dumb, and blind. In the musical version, the dad, in self-defense, kills the boyfriend, and it still affects Tommy the same way. But we were doing the rehearsals one time, and the mom, she sees her husband, and she's running over. But we were doing the rehearsal, and she happened to trip up by the dead body. And from then on, and Natalie hated me for this too. Whenever she walked by, I would say like, "Don't slip," right? Because I just imagine that we're like, "Oh, my husband's home. Someone's been murdered in front of me." Slip, right? It's like, you hear like that shoe on like a gym floor sound, like squeak. Yes, like things like that where like people like slip up. Blanking right now, but it's like, where it's like, "Yeah, I got away," slip, or they'll actually, have you ever seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yep, I own it.
Yeah, it's the same idea, where the deaths are not intentional, like they're completely accidental, but they're set up like they're set up to them for that, and it's like, we got your friend, they got our friend, kind of thing, right? It's like, we got your friend. Or there was that beam with the giant nails that was swung down by the door. They're like, oh, we better fix that, and they never do. Or the one guy tries to tackle him, he bends down and ends up in the wood chipper. And that one is really good. Also, Cabin in the Woods was another funny one where they poked fun at it. Or they had the board of like basically, well, who's gonna kill everyone? There's like witches and then sexy witches. So,
Yeah, they God, that movie was like such a mashup. It was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, Cabin in the Woods, Last House, what was it called? The Last House on the Left, I think. People, it was so many different movies just like all together and just so great. It's got Steve the Pirate in it, guys.
The quote unquote stoner guy that knows all about the like the horror movies. At the end, sure, I'm eating the candy. 1 second. How they're talking about how like the house or houses, you find out that there's more than one throughout the world, are trying to appease the gods, until you realize that at the end, it basically is like, we have to appease the gods or they'll be unhappy. Until you realize at the end that they're basically saying the old ones are the fans. Basically, if they don't please the fans, they're going to get mad. So they're basically poking fun at people, saying like, well, that's not like, I didn't like the sequel of that one, or I didn't like that movie, or I didn't like that remake, kind of thing, right? So they basically do poking fun at people that bash movies. So I'm like, okay, so I see what they're doing here. And the fact that it also got shelved for like a year and a half after it was filmed. But again, there's some brilliant scenes in there. And I've never seen the original Evil Dead. I've seen 2, Army of Darkness, and yeah, I guess there's only the 2, isn't it? Yeah. And with the Ash versus the Evil Dead, I gotta get into these shows because Bruce Campbell's awesome. Yeah. So.
Yep, I'm gonna have to introduce you to Evil Dead then one time.
Yeah.
That one is a gore fest. It's not
the original. I've heard the stories of like when they were filming it, and yeah, there was a bunch of kids that didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then when they did part 2, it was technically a sequel, technically a remake. It was kind of interesting. Yeah. Actually, anyone that's been watching Shudder, Creepshow season 2, not Sam Raimi, but his brother. Anyways, they do. I think it's called like Night Show of the Living Dead, anyways, it takes place in like a TV production studio, and all these different shows, and they introduce all these characters, and he comes up, and it's like a antiques roadshow, like an antiques roadshow kind of show, and he brings out the Necronomicon, and it ends up affecting the entire studio. And I'm like, I see what you're doing there. So it's like, it's not a sequel, but it is an Evil Dead episode. Yeah, like everyone starts getting affected the same way, and the people that are jerks, like they end up being possessed, and yeah, so it's quite good. So if you want to, Shudder is pretty accessible, and I've really been enjoying like all the programs on there, and like the old stuff, the new stuff. Got to see the again, leading up to Halloween, we watched the 2 original Omens, and then there was the remake, and it was neat how the remake I enjoyed, but the original is still fantastic. Yeah, we watched Carrie, both versions of it, which is really good. Like, yeah, there's some, like, there's that whole thing where like people say like, oh, we like being scared. No, we don't like being scared. We like being, no one really likes being scared, but it's that release afterwards. But at the same time, it's like fear is important because it helps you deal with stuff, right? Yeah. So yeah.
That
Oh,
that the horror movie thing is like an endorphin rush.
yep.
It's like
Yeah.
drugs.
Well, like roller coasters and stuff like that, like anything that like releases any kind of endorphin. Yeah. So it's like having a bad day. Get scared. Yeah. I think it's more of the whole being shocked and scared and realizing that like, oh, I'm not in danger. It's that weird chemical thing where like humans are like, oh, I'm fine kind of thing, right? Because you can get scared from something, but then there's that release afterwards too, which is a completely human thing to do. But again, I don't know. Well, Steve, I'm sorry, but I gotta wrap this up because I gotta get ready for work, man.
Well, guys,
Yeah.
Scotty and Steve Merlot and all them guys have got a movie coming out called The Sawyer Massacre, which is the unofficial prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. It's
If
not an
you-
origin story. It's not an origin story. It's definitely a prequel. Yeah, but we're and yeah, thanks for making it through with this. Yeah.
It is it's still up on Indiegogo. You can still go and donate to it. It's in demand right now. There's a lot of stretch goal perks that can be obtained. All kinds of stuff, things like t-shirts, hoodies, VHS, DVDs, movie posters, signed items. I'm getting a signed family portrait of you and all the other actors together,
Yeah.
the Sawyer family. I'm doing, like I said, I'm bringing these back again, and
I
like I
love
said,
them.
all the proceeds to it go directly to the movie.
Right on.
I don't keep a cent of it. It all goes to Steve and Scotty to make that film. So they're going to be around until after Christmas. After that, they're gone. That's it. So if you want them, you better go grab them. You can find the link to them on the Indiegogo through Sawyer Massacre, or just direct message me and I can get it for you, and just go through PayPal, or just go to my Teespring store and order it from there. So there's 3 ways to get one of those shirts. So let's bring the Sawyer family back to Texas, guys.
Carry
And
on.
Scotty, I want to say thank you for joining me.
Absolutely, John. Anytime. Yeah, let's do this fairly often now. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. And
Yep.
if anyone out there who's meeting me for the first time, I'm very open on Facebook. Just search me, Scotty with a Y, A Parkin. Love to chat with you and where you're from, so share some stories. A lot of my stuff is just shameless self-promotion and jokes,
Lots of
but
memes.
yeah, lots. Yeah, no, I think that's what it's really for. It's just like, no, just like nothing too political. Just a lot of fun stuff. Yeah.
I think
And
next time I think the next horror hangout, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a horror. And if you're open to it, I'll bring you back on and we'll watch Last Starfighter. We'll still
I would
call
love
it
to.
horror hangout because everybody knows it as that.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be horror. It's going to be a sci-fi movie. It's a movie that I grew up with, Scotty grew up with, and we just love it. It's definitely very underappreciated. It's a cult film.
Oh, it's a hero's journey film too. Yeah. And it's definitely a feel good. The music is good, even though there's not that many tracks. But it's one of those films that came out in like the mid '80s that was popular at the time, but until like really streaming a VHS, people really didn't know that much about. But it was one of those films I remember being introduced to when I was a kid, that I loved because like the original Tron and the Last Starfighter are probably definitely my top 5 favorite films. In no particular order, but if you ask me whatever my favorite superhero film is, it's got to be the original Superman, like the old Christopher Reeves Superman film, because it's definitely a 3-act play, and stuff like that. People are like, oh, Star Wars, Star Trek. No, there's so much more out there. Like, it's a great gateway, but sometimes you just have to give someone a chance. So, yeah. There you go.
Michelle said, "Thanks for hanging out, guys." Nope, thank you for hanging out with us.
No, thanks for listening to us. Yeah, back in the day, we did when we did that podcast, which we thought was going to be like an hour, and it being like 4.5. So we just chatted. For that, yeah.
have the unedited file to that, and I am thinking of maybe donating that to Steve to maybe if they want a
Hey, yeah,
4-hour content of just me and you blabbing, they could put it
Right
up
on.
on the as a perk.
Right on. That's one I have not listened to from your show. It's just like I'm like, do I have to listen to myself for like 4 hours? So,
It took me a long time to start listening to
Yeah.
myself too, because I always
Yeah.
like, God, it sounds so stupid. I sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like my inner Napoleon Dynamite voice going, stupid idiot.
Stupid. Oh god. Or it's like that self-punishment thing where like I'll do something something dumb around my wife, and I'll do basically like the inner voice thing, and I'm like, you don't have to berate me. I'm already feeling bad for myself, right? So all right, thanks guys. I'm sorry. I gotta get to work. I gotta make sure people are working at a casino. I gotta make sure people are having fun and behaving themselves. So, yeah. It's Saturday night, so it's hit and miss sometimes. Yeah. So, but if you guys want to chat with me, feel free to look me up on Facebook. I'm not really on anything else right now. Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you so much, and nice to meet the people in the chat. And hopefully, you guys will see more of me pretty soon. I want to get more and more into this. It's been a year, like for everyone else, but things are getting better. And anyone that's had a rough time, it will get better. Thank you for joining us.
Yep. And I want to, before we end, I just want to say for Michelle Blasky, I don't know if she's still here. She's probably not. Everybody, Tuesday, I think Tuesday, the 9th is when she's launching her crowdfunding for the third channel, which is a sequel to Halloween Season of the Witch, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Sorry. But go support that if you are a Halloween 3 fan. I know a lot of people don't much care for that movie, but I think it is one of the most underappreciated movies in the entire franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of lists skip it, but again, it's like if it's something you like, watch it, right? Because you can't say you hate something if you haven't seen it. But
And
if you,
it is the perfect Halloween film. It
Right
is
on.
because it is based on Halloween. So,
right on.
Well,
All right.
I'll let you get off to protecting the casinos of Canada, and I'm gonna go get dressed and run to the grocery store so I don't starve to death.
There you go.
Which probably wouldn't work since I'm 270 pounds. I probably need to lose weight, but
yeah. Well, no, always a pleasure, John. Thanks everyone for joining us again.
Yep. Thank you guys, and thank you again, Scotty.
Okay. See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.